is 9:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? My name's Chris Hand. Show's brought to you by our friends at Better Water LLC, water filtration systems, water softeners. Mason, why would you need that? Anybody know?
Chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
Oh, Mason wasn't ready. The slider was still down.
I had him in preview for him. I was showing him some cool stuff earlier. And
oh, yeah. Mason's training back there.
Doing some training.
Mason's the #1 trainee on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, I'm trying to move from the assistant to the executive producer to be the assistant executive producer.
Well, let's not count our chickens before they hatch.
Yeah, we'll see if Sam lets me out.
We'll see what happens. We got a lot to get to today. I'm actually pretty excited about the show. We got our friend Josh Tifo coming in at 10 o'clock. He's the Senior Director for Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action. Erica Donalds is also going to be joining the show. She is the wife of Representative Byron Donalds. We're going to be talking about school choice. They actually reached out to me. They said, hey, you know, they want to talk about the school choice program, the education freedom scholarships, all that, and expanding it in Tennessee. And I said, you know, listen, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I have some reservations. I like school choice in theory, but I worry about it in practice, especially after seeing how it's been executed in Tennessee. And I said, it was a PR rep that had reached out to me, a friend of mine. And I said, listen, I'm not trying to do a gotcha interview. So you can tell Miss Donalds, you know, if she just wants an easy interview, that's cool. It's probably not here because I have some serious questions. And she said, no, Erica Donalds actually likes the hard questions, and she's here for a conversation. So we're going to talk to her. We're going to talk about the costs. We're going to talk about how your taxpayer dollars are going to Islamic schools. And we're going to have a free-flowing conversation here on school choice, what it means in theory, what it means in practice with Erica Donalds. That's going to happen around 11:05. And then for the lightning round, I got my buddy Walt Banks is going to come in, and he's going to hang out with us for the lightning round. Smart guy, and he's just going to hang out and have some fun with us. So we're looking forward to all that. We got a lot to talk about in the meantime, from the shutdown to Iran to fraud to Cuba and more. So I doubt we're going to have enough time to get to everything, but we are going to do our damnedest. As always, phone lines are open to you, 615-737-9986. You can also jump on the text line, same number, 615-737-9986. You can jump inside the YouTube chat as well. If you're watching us on YouTube, hello, how are you? Don't forget to hit subscribe and like the show on your way in or your way out. We appreciate you helping us grow the digital footprint of the radio station. It takes all of us, so thank you for doing so. It really does help. You know, the numbers on the YouTube helps us get cool interviews. That's really what it boils down to. The more subscribers you have, the more internet clout you have, the more serious people take you. I think a lot of people take the radio station serious, and we have one of the best radio stations in the country because of you guys, the audience, and the connection that we have. So if we could migrate some of that, a little bit more of that over to the YouTube, it would definitely help us, and we appreciate you guys. You don't even have to watch on YouTube. You could just hit subscribe and then never come back. That's fine as well. But we appreciate you helping us out there. Let's start with Iran. Do you want to start with Iran? I think we start with Iran. Donald Trump, a lot of people are saying that he's been going back on campaign promises. He campaigned on no new wars. Here on Super Talk, we have said quite a few times he hasn't changed his position on Iran at all, actually. This has been a consistent position on the nation of Iran going back decades, and people don't want to hear it. People are like, no, he promised no new wars. And it's like, yeah, I get that. But he also has been talking tough when it comes to Iran for decades now. Last night on True Social, Donald Trump posted the proof. It was about a minute-long video, and it goes back to Trump in the 80s, doing interviews with all sorts of individuals, speaking, and just multiple statements on the nation of Iran. This is for everybody who says he campaigned on no new wars and he's going back on his promises. Like, no, he's always felt this way about Iran.
Because I'm running for the presidency. I'm here because I'm personally tired of seeing this great country of ours being ripped off.
But as far as Trump is concerned, our allies are only part of the problem. The real culprit is Iran.
Why couldn't we go in and take over some of their oil, which is along the sea?
How would you do that? Would you send in the Marines? Would you take a chance in a war?
Let them have Iran. You take their oil. That's what
How?
How?
I mean, do we want a war? What do you mean we take their oil?
You go in. You're
How
gonna have
do
a
we
war,
go
Barbara.
in?
You're going to have a war by being weak.
Okay, how do we go in? What do we do?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
You're going to have a war, and it's going to start in the Middle East.
What if the Soviet Union said, you do this to Iran, we're going to come in?
I don't believe they'd do it. The next time Iran attacks this country, go in and grab one of their big oil installations, and I mean grab it and keep it, and get back your losses, because this country has lost plenty because of Iran.
So is he still going back on campaign promises? Has he reversed course, changed direction on Iran? I mean, hey, you tell me what you think. 615-737-9986. What I do know is that Secretary of War Pete Hegseth had a big press conference this morning, and he was talking about, meeting with soldiers, the objectives, the operation, the execution. This line stuck out to me. I did hear it on the way in as I was listening to Dan and Joan just rock this. But he said that a junior airman, he asked them what they needed. And they said, well, sir, we need more bombs.
I witnessed lethality. I met a junior airman as the sun was going down and a chill was setting on the tarmac, who, when asked what they needed, she simply looked up at me with a sly smile on her face and said, more bombs, sir, and bigger bombs. We will happily oblige her.
That's Secretary of War Pete Hegseth at his press conference this morning. He also said that there's a lot of young troops overseas, and they're not asking to be sent home. They're asking to finish the mission. Pete Hegseth.
Yeah. I asked each young American, what do you need? And nobody said better equipment. Nobody said more comfortable living conditions. Nobody said send me home. Well, of course, eventually we want all those things. They do too. But what those Americans said to me, young and old, officer and NCO, male and female, black and white, was let's finish the mission. Get us even more bombs, bigger bombs, more targets. Let us finish this. In fact, Admiral Cooper noted this morning that the 3 Air Force captains shot down by Kuwaiti-friendly fire early in the fight, weeks ago. They never left the theater.
Yeah, they're actually some of the ones that dropped the bombs last night over Tehran. Unbelievable. Never left the theater, still out there fighting, didn't ask to go home. Sir, we want to finish the mission. Now, this could be anecdotal, and there'll be people on the internet that'll say, he's lying. But I'm going to choose to trust him in the meantime. He also said that the regime, the Iranian regime, they have to make a deal or they're not going to like the consequences.
Strikes alone, in addition to the pre-planned targets. The video the president posted last night of Esfahan, an ammo depot struck by U.S. bombers. You see, you don't get to see many of those videos because, as a reminder, Iran has still shut off the internet to 99.9% of its population. But if Iran is wise, they will cut a deal. President Trump doesn't bluff, and he does not back down. You can ask Khomeini about that. The new Iranian regime...
Well, can you ask him? I don't think you can ask him. I think that's probably one of the only lies we could call him on. You can ask Khomeini about that. Well, you can't. Because he's dead. I mean, I'm sure you could ask him. You're probably not going to get a response.
Should know that by now. This new regime, because regime change has occurred, should be wiser than the last. President Trump will make a deal. He is willing. And the terms of the deal are known to them. If Iran is not willing, then the United States War Department will continue with even more intensity.
I mean, that's kind of where you're at. You can end this by negotiating and bringing about a peace, or you can keep getting bombed. The ball is in your court, the Iranians. Pete Hegseth went on to say, may God watch over the troops each day and night. This is going to make the liberals a bit sweaty. He's once again invoking the name of Jesus and asking for protection over soldiers. Somehow this is controversial when he does stuff like this.
In this briefing room, in my mind's eye, I'm actually looking out at the groups I met this weekend. The pilots, the logisticians, the intel analysts, the targeters, the sustainers, the flight crews, the air defenders, the base security, those maintainers who we walked up at sunset with the chill in the air on the flight line. May God watch over all of them, each day and each night. May his almighty and eternal arms of providence stretch over them and protect them and bring them peace. In the name of Jesus Christ, and amen.
Amen. I mean, why are you mad at that? The liberal media is mad at that. They've actually been very upset about Pete Hegseth praying during this conflict. Caroline Leavitt was actually asked about this yesterday, too. Like, can you believe that he's doing this kind of stuff? Praying for safety and protection? How dare he? What a radical.
And founded 250 years ago almost on Judeo-Christian values. And we've seen presidents, we've seen the leaders of the Department of War, and we've seen our troops go to prayer during the most turbulent times in our nation's history. And I don't think there's anything wrong with our military leaders or with the president calling on the American people to pray for our service members and those who are serving our country overseas. In fact, I think it's a very noble thing to do. And if you talk to many service members, they will tell you they appreciate the prayers and support from the Commander-in-Chief and from his cabinet.
But the liberal media is upset about this. I think they're just mad that there is a Christ focus back in the White House once again, not topless trannies on the front lawn. I know. The adults are back in charge, believe it or not. It is Holy Week. Caroline Leavitt acknowledged that yesterday during the press briefing as well. And we also have Donald Trump saying if the Senate will come back, he'll host him for Easter dinner. This is Caroline Leavitt yesterday talking about Holy Week.
And this Holy Week, President Trump and the First Lady are joining in prayer with Christians celebrating the resurrection of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. On Wednesday, the president will host an Easter lunch in the East Room with faith leaders across the country to celebrate Holy Week. Let's go. I like the fact that there's a Christian focus in this government. Others will besmirch it. They'll say it's not authentic, and I'll just say, who are you to tell anyone that that's not authentic? I really do. I despise that when people are like, oh, you're a Christian, but you're not doing Christian things. I get it all the time. What kind of Christian are you? It's like, leave that between me and the Lord. Thank you very much. And I'll do the same for them. I like seeing Jesus' name spoken at these podiums. I like the fact that they're praying for our soldiers while they're in battle. I think that's a good thing. And I don't understand how somebody who doesn't believe in Jesus wouldn't also be okay with that. You're praying for my safety and my protection? Oh, okay. Well, on the off chance that you're right, thanks, right? Like, why would that make you upset? I don't understand why that makes people upset. It makes a lot of people very upset. Secretary Marco Rubio says that Iran's threat to control the Strait of Hormuz is dead on arrival. It is not acceptable on our terms. And this continues to be the hurdle that we need to clear. Marco Rubio was on Al Jazeera yesterday, and he said just that.
Iran said it rejects the U.S. demands and is setting its own conditions, such as the financial compensation and also recognition of its sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. Are those demands acceptable from an American perspective?
Not only is the sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz not acceptable to us, it won't be acceptable to the world. No one in the world can accept it. Number one, it sets an incredible precedent. So this means that nations can now take over international waterways and claim them as their own. The United States could do that now. The Chinese could do it in the South China Sea. No one in the world is going to accept that or should accept that. Now, let me be frank, very little of American energy comes through the Straits of Hormuz in terms of the energy we rely on, but we recognize the impact that it has on global markets and on our neighbors, especially our allies in the region who produce energy and have to get it out to market. So no country in the world should accept it. The regional countries in the world should accept it. The United States will not accept that condition. It's an illegal condition that they're demanding. That's just not going to happen.
That's Secretary of State Marco Rubio on with Al Jazeera. He also wanted to say that by the end of this conflict, when this operation is over, the Strait of Hormuz will be open one way or another.
Well, the Straits of Hormuz will be open. When this operation is over, it will be open, and it'll be open one way or another. It will be open because Iran agrees to abide by international law and not block the commercial waterway, or a coalition of nations from around the world and the region, with the participation of the United States, will make sure that it's open. One way or the other, it's going to be open.
Well, I think that's a good statement. One way or another, it's going to be open. I do think this hurdle is going to be gotten over soon enough. Although, I do find myself wondering. We talk a lot about the Straits of Hormuz, but what about the gays of Hormuz?
Isn't it a little bit homophobic that we're so focused on the Straits of Hormuz and not the gays of Hormuz?
Yes, 100%. 921. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand here for my friends at Better Water LLC. If you're tired of weird smells, bad tasting water at the house or the office, these are the guys you need to call. Think of it like a giant Brita filter for your entire house. Or they can scale one down to fit just underneath your sink. Or they can do one for your whole business. And they handle everything. They'll test your water for free. You call them today and say, hey, Chris Hand said you'll test my water for free. And they'll say, absolutely. And they'll find out if you have some nasty stuff in your water. Sulfur, iron, chlorine, bacteria, even E. coli could be in your water. Now, you might think, well, I'm on city water. I have nothing to worry about. Well, Better Water has horror stories. You might think, well, I'm on well water. I'm good to go. Better Water has horror stories. The only way you're going to have that peace of mind is if you test your water for free today. Now, when you test your water, if there is nasty stuff in it, tons of options. From reverse osmosis, specialized filters to UV lights, Better Water has you covered. Starts with a phone call, 615-355-6063. That's 615-355-6063. You can always check them out online as well, betterwater.com.
Coming up here, we have a crash to tell you about on I-24. It's in the eastbound lanes near Waldron Road. All traffic is stopped there, and looks like traffic is being diverted off at Waldron Road this morning. Be advised of that. Also, the Supreme Court, breaking news here, has just ruled against a Colorado conversion therapy ban. There was just one justice dissenting, and you can probably guess which one. We've got it for you coming up here at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's Joan Jones in the newsroom. Headlines on the way in less than 3 minutes. Marco Rubio sitting down for an interview with Al Jazeera. Had some things to say about our NATO allies.
If that's what someone in Europe told you, that person's very disingenuous, because the United States has tens of thousands of troops stationed throughout that region. Billions of dollars of weaponry staged throughout Europe. All of it there to defend Europe, not to defend America, to defend Europe from attack. Okay, all over. The United States is without the United States, there is no NATO. I mean, everyone recognizes that, including NATO. If we decided tomorrow that we were going to remove our troops from Europe, that would be the end of NATO. So they know that. And that commitment, we haven't moved troops out of NATO. So anyone who said that's not being honest or is not, I think they're playing games. If that's what's...
Without the United States, there is no NATO. Where's the lie? Now, there are allies over there in Europe that aren't helping at all. Spain is one of the big ones. And Marco Rubio didn't hold back when dealing with the leftists in their government.
I think it was very disappointing. You have this, and again, look, the president and our country will have to re-examine all of this after this operation is over. But one of the reasons why NATO is beneficial to the United States is it gives us basing rights for contingencies. It allows us to station troops and aircraft and weapons and in parts of the world that we would normally have bases. And that includes in much of Europe. And to see that in a time of need, the United States has identified a grave risk to our national security and our national interests, and we needed to conduct this operation. And we have countries like Spain, a NATO member, that we are pledged to defend, denying us the use of their airspace and bragging about it, denying us the use of their bases. And there are other countries that have done that as well. And so you ask yourself, well, what is in it for the United States?
What is in it for the United States? I mean, that's a good question. We just have to open up the pocketbook every time they ask, but we don't get any benefit in return. It's insane. And then they boast about it. Hope Spain doesn't need any help anytime soon. Marco Rubio continued, and he put NATO on notice, essentially, saying, listen, if NATO's not going to have our back, why should we have theirs?
And I've been a big supporter of NATO. And one of the reasons why I've been a supporter of NATO is because I believe that these basing rights give us leverage and give us flexibility and operational capability all over the world. But if NATO is just about us defending Europe if they're attacked, but them denying us basing rights when we need them, that's not a very good arrangement. That's a hard one to stay engaged in and say this is good for the United States. So all of that's going to have to be re-examined. All of it's going to have to be re-examined.
I hope they do it relatively quickly. I don't think that NATO is a net positive for the United States. I think we should just go at it on our own instead of being the world's backup. It's just do it yourself. 9:30, Super Talk, 99.7, WTN.
Good morning. It is now 9:30, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. And once again, drivers, you've got 24 eastbound this morning. Traffic is stopped. It's blocked off at Waldron Road for a very serious accident involving at least two cars. Looks like they're pushing the cars away, beginning to take them away on wreckers at this moment, but still blocked off there, traffic being diverted onto Waldron Road. Breaking news this morning, the Supreme Court ruling against Colorado's ban on conversion therapy. Writing for the majority, Justice Neil Gorsuch saying that the First Amendment stands as a shield against any effort to enforce orthodoxy in thought or speech in this country. Just one justice thinks that a ban on conversion therapy is okay.
It was Justice Jackson. She has said that this ruling is potentially catastrophic. She says the majority finds at bottom that Colorado likely cannot legislate to protect the children of its state if by doing so it happens to keep state licensed healthcare providers from saying what they want to minors. She goes on to say it will ultimately risk grave harm to Americans' health and well-being.
That is Fox News' Shannon Bream reporting there last night in Rutherford County. A hotly contested public hearing over the future of the library director.
Council members voted to fire the library director, Luann James. It comes after she refused to move more than 100 LGBTQ-themed books into the adult section. The vote was not unanimous.
Channel 4's Marius Payton there. Now, these are children's books with sexual LGBTQ themes that were part of an order by the Secretary of State, Trey Hargett, requiring libraries to make an age-appropriate review of the books. That's the latest news. We've got weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand here from my friends at USS, United Structural Systems. Rainy season is coming to Middle Tennessee, and there's going to be a lot of water dumping down on your property. Do you have cracks that is letting the water get into your crawl space or your basement? Sure, it happens from time to time, but the water dries up and you think the problem goes away. That's not the case, actually. It's only going to get worse, and every time the rain comes back, so does the water in the crawl space and in the basement. If it goes untreated, it could lead to foundation issues. It could lead to mold. You don't want either of that. What you want to do is call an expert that's been doing it since 1994. This is where my guys at USS come in. These guys have helped homeowners across Tennessee repair foundation that has been damaged by storms. They help seal up the leaks. The water's not going to get in. They're not going to offer quick fixes. They're going to deliver long-term solutions because your home is way too important to gamble with. Talk to my friends today. If your foundation has issues, if you got waterproofing problems, these are the guys to call every single time. 615-488-7855, 615-488-7855. There's a reason they've been doing it since 1994. That peace of mind only comes with United Structural Systems, online at ussTN.com.
WTN.
36 minutes past the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. Show's brought to you by our friends at Better Water LLC. You can listen to us anywhere, all the apps on the FM dial. You can watch us as well, YouTube and Rumble. Smash the subscribe button. We appreciate you doing so. And you can find me on every social media platform that matters, at Chris Hand on air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back. Did I give you enough things to do? Nobody's going to do any of them. No, there's a lot of things, Chris. We're not going to do all the things. All right, we'll pick one. And then we can talk about the others later. Rick on line one wants to talk about the Strait of Hormuz. Appreciate the call, Rick. What do you got?
Hey, Chris. Love the show.
Thanks, man. What do you think?
Well, I've got a silly question, I guess, but I'm just wondering how have they got the Strait of Hormuz closed? Just because they say it's closed, whoever they is. I mean, we've diminished their Navy and all their mine layers and all this and that. How are they closing the Strait of Hormuz just on their word?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, Rick, and I appreciate the call. You're not the only one with the question. I've answered this question. How many times have we gotten this question on the text line? Hundreds of times. Quick answer, one word, drones. It's drones. It's pretty much it. Drones and mines. That's it. I mean, I don't know how to simplify it any more than that. They're cheap. They're effective. They can be launched from anywhere. This is the last major hurdle in this operation. I don't know how you tackle it, to be perfectly honest with you. I hope the negotiations are going well. People say they are. Caroline Leavitt yesterday talking about how many targets they've struck in Iran. Over 11,000 at this point, according to Caroline Leavitt. Yesterday, she broke it all down in the press briefing. Caroline Leavitt.
With each passing day, the United States military is increasing its advantage over the terrorist Iranian regime. More than 11,000 enemy targets have been struck to date, each strike further crippling the regime's offensive and defensive capabilities and creating more leverage for the United States and our allies. Compared to the start of the operation, Iran's ballistic missile and drone attacks are down by roughly 90%. The United States is also decimating the Iranian regime's navy. We have destroyed more than 150 of their naval vessels so far, including 92% of their largest vessels. The Iranian Navy has no vessels operating in major regional waterways and no ability to project naval power, which is why they've been assessed as combat ineffective. Our military continues to obliterate Iran's defense industrial base, with nearly 70% of their missile, drone, and naval production facilities and shipyards damaged or destroyed thus far, significantly reducing their ability to pose future threats in the region. U.S. and Israeli joint forces control the skies and have asserted air dominance over Iran, completing more than 11,000 successful combat flights thus far. Targeted strikes with devastating combat power with each passing day to destroy the threat posed by the Iranian terrorist regime.
Now, people will hear that and say, oh, that's just Trump administration propaganda, but I mean, the facts are the facts are the facts. Yes, there's still things to be done. I listen to the numbers, and they say 70% of the missile factories and the drone factories, I think those are rookie numbers. Let's get it closer to 100%. That's what we need. That's what we want to see. But at the same time, people will call it a lie. They'll say that this is propaganda. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I'm gonna trust this administration that I voted in to do the job. But they also say that there's no negotiations going on. The media will tell you that the negotiations are overblown. Leftists will tell you that they're not even happening at all. Leftists would rather trust the Iranians than they would their own presidential administration. But hey, here we are. Caroline Leavitt yesterday said that Iran is panicking and begging President Trump for a deal behind the scenes.
President Trump sought out to do a month ago. It's no surprise that we are seeing the remaining elements of the regime become increasingly eager to end the destruction and come to the negotiating table while they still can. Despite all of the public posturing you hear from the regime and false reporting, talks are continuing and going well. What is said publicly is, of course, much different than what's being communicated to us privately. As a result, President Trump issued a 10-day pause to postpone planned strikes on Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure. This remains a truly once-in-a-generation opportunity for the regime to make a good deal with the United States, permanently abandon their nuclear ambitions, and stop acting as the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. If the Iranians reject this golden opportunity, the greatest military in the history of the world continues to stand by to provide President Trump with every option available to ensure this regime continues to pay a grave price. One way or another, Iran will no longer have the credible ability to threaten the United States or our allies, which is, of course, the overall objective and mission the president set out when he launched Operation Epic Fury. Unfortunately, even as President Trump is working hard every single day to protect the United States from foreign enemies.
So that's Caroline Levitt there. She's making the point that the negotiations are happening behind the scenes. The mainstream media is downplaying it. The Iranians are downplaying it, but that's just posturing. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's spin. Maybe it's propaganda. I'm going to trust them. I mean, at this point, what other options does Iran have? Would you like to go through the rebrand like the other nations in the Middle East have and focus more on prosperity? I mean, we've seen it time and time again. All of these nations are kind of coming around to the idea that maybe the Islamic death cult isn't really the face of the nation that we think it should be. And then they're becoming westernized. We see Saudi Arabia getting WWE events and the racing events, and they're making a lot of money. We see Dubai as like a shining example of an unbelievable city and what cities could be. Iran could have this too. They have the resources to be rich and prosperous. This is a golden opportunity. Make no mistake about it. Will they take it or won't they? I mean, I guess the ball's in their court at this moment. But the deal is there. The deal could be had. And there could be a lot of money and prosperity to follow. Hey, what do I know? They have different ideas of what prosperity it looks like, apparently. Maybe they'll make a deal. Maybe they won't. Caroline Levitt says, however you spin it, we're way ahead of schedule. A reporter asked, where are you at on the 4 to 6 week timeline yesterday? And we have talked about it on this show. And even in that interview I aired from Marco Rubio earlier on Al Jazeera, it seems like they keep hammering that timeline again on the 4 to 6 weeks. Well, one reporter yesterday said, where are we on that 4 to 6 weeks?
Trump says we're ahead of schedule in achieving his military objectives in Iran. He laid out that 4 to 6 week timetable for this conflict, and we're now within week 5. So how do you square kind of those two?
Well, 4 to 6 weeks estimated timeline. Again, you just said we're on day 30 of the operation. I just provided you with some of the updates from the Pentagon directly in achieving the objectives, and the military has been enormously successful. I think we should all be very proud of our armed forces for what they have done over the past 30 days. The mission will continue until the objectives are achieved, and that 4 to 6 week timeline does remain right now. I don't have any updates for you on that.
Trump says
we're what was day 30, she said? Day 30? Okay, day 31, 4 to 6 week operation, ahead of schedule. That still puts us at mid-April. We'll see what happens. I pray it's over by then. I pray it's over this week. Let's get it done. A lot of people are saying Donald Trump is threatening to commit war crimes because he would go after energy infrastructure. And Caroline Levitt was posed this question, saying that Trump has threatened to commit war crimes. I even see it on the text line. I got a text here just a little while ago, 2226. So we're cool with attacking civilian infrastructure now? Okay, maybe. Listen to this. This is Caroline Levitt.
Generally prohibited. Why is the president threatening what would amount to potentially a war crime with the U.S. military? And how do you square that with the administration repeatedly saying that the U.S. does not target civilians?
Look, the president has made it quite clear to the Iranian regime at this moment in time, as evidenced by the statement that you just read, that their best move is to make a deal, or else the United States Armed Forces has capabilities beyond their wildest imagination, and the president is not afraid to use them. That's not what I said, Garrett. And you're saying the word potential for a reason, because I'm sure some experts are telling you that in your ear to try to ask me that question. Of course, this administration and the United States Armed Forces will always act within the confines of the law. But with respect to achieving the full objectives of Operation Epic Fury, President Trump is going to move forward unabated, and he expects the Iranian regime to make a deal with the administration.
I love the way she goes, potential's the key word there. And I would say the same thing to the leftist texting me. Nothing's happened yet. If you think this is a bludgeon to use against the Trump administration, by all means, but nothing has happened yet. So we're dealing in hypotheticals. Okay, that's fine. Caroline Levitt also talked about the line on the Islamic regime, talking about how the previous regime is no longer there, and the negotiations that we're dealing with now completely different leadership. This is Caroline Levitt.
The amount of time and effort trying to strike a deal, and unfortunately, the previous regime, again, many of those leaders no longer with us here on Earth because they faced the consequences of the United States military. So if there's ever a chance for a deal, again, the president is open to listening, but it does not deter him from focusing on the military objectives that he set out 30 days ago and that our military is continuing to achieve day by day.
But Caroline, no. The Iranians say that there's no negotiations happening behind the scenes. You know that, right? You're aware that the Iranians say that there's no negotiations.
We just heard from Iran again. They're saying no negotiations are taking place. They're calling the proposal excessive, unrealistic. So how do you square that? How do you explain that discrepancy between the two?
I think the American people are smart enough not to take the word of a terrorist regime that has chanted death to America for 47 years at their word. And I hope the journalists in this room are wise enough not to take an Iranian regime that has repeatedly lied about our country, about our values, about everyone in this room, frankly, for nearly 5 decades. So I think the American public are smart enough to understand that.
And just to follow up on the objectives, you've laid them out, but I know the president has set a deadline for April 6th in just 1 week. What does the president need to see to not move forward with those strikes by April 6th?
Well, I think he said it in his Truth Social post this morning. He wants to see a deal over the next 10 days. That timeline is waning, several days left, and we'll see. I won't get ahead of it. We'll see what happens in the end of the 10-day period.
Pray for a deal. I mean, honestly, let's just pray for this thing to be over with as quickly as humanly possible. They said, she said, are you really trusting the Iranian regime? This is the same regime, mind you, if I recall correctly, that after Soleimani was killed, they needed to have a retaliatory strike because they needed to be able to saber rattle. They telegraphed where that strike was going to be, and we were able to get all of our troops out of harm's way. And then there was all done. Great. Perfect. Everybody wins. This regime is going to say things to continue to act tough for their own people. That's just the nature of the beast. But I do believe negotiations are happening behind the scenes. I don't know where they're at, how they're progressing, but I'm gonna trust our negotiators. We've seen what they've been able to do elsewhere. Caroline Levitt talked about a lot of things during this press briefing. It wasn't just Iran. We'll bring you some of the other stuff on the way when it comes to the shutdown and John Thune and the fact that President Trump is offering to host a big Easter dinner if the senators cancel their recess and come back to Washington and actually fight. We'll bring you those comments on the way. Real quick, though, I got my friend Nelson in Nashville. Nelson disagrees with me, so we're taking the call. What's up, Nelson?
Hey, Chris.
What are we disagreeing about?
Well, and I'm going to start with this, man. I know you're probably getting tired of me. I know I've been bothering you and stuff, and I text a lot, and I'm sorry I can be a little abrasive, but I just
that's fine. I can also be abrasive, so we're good.
Well, if Kamala Harris was driving the bus straight into war right now, would you approve of that too? Like, would you be trying to defend her and Kamala Harris doing this?
No, and it's funny you say that. I actually brought this up on the show weeks ago that I said the exact same thing. We'd be up in arms if it was Kamala Harris doing this. To just, game plan that out. I think that she would be weak and ineffective as the commander-in-chief. I don't think she'd be able to get anything done. I don't think the Islamic nations would respect her for the simple fact that she's a woman, not even to get into her leadership style. So I think we would be in a completely different position than we are right now. That being said,
wasn't it fair to criticize Trump the same way then?
Yeah, I think I don't say that it's unfair to criticize Trump.
You're pulling up clips from the 80s to defend him.
Yes, because I'm
you're really reaching. And I'm at work. I'm sorry, it's really loud.
I'm not reaching. He posted that last night, which is why I played it, because it's but he posted it last night, so it's relevant. And it highlights
it's from the 80s.
Yes, correct, because it highlights his stance on Iran for decades.
How many clips could you put together of him saying no more wars?
I'm sure we could put together a bunch. But when he was running for president in 2015, he talked about the threat of Iran. It builds the case that he hasn't changed his position on Iran. I can play you the clip from 2015 when he said it. I can play you the clip from 1980 when he said it. But people are saying now that he flipped on his position. And the case I'm making is he has always had the same position about Iran. So you can be mad that I'm playing a clip from the 80s, but what that does is it builds that historical context of President Trump, whether it's 9 years ago in 2015 or, 30, 40 years ago in 1980, he's had the same position on Iran.
It's just funny to see the Republicans turn into Democrats.
How am I turning into a Democrat?
Because, that's what they do. It's like blue no matter who, no matter what. It's just, hey, trust the plan, 4D chess. I'm tired of hearing all that crap.
But when have I said 4D chess?
Chris, that stuff gets said every day, man. You know that.
Okay. So what's the issue here? You're mad because I want to get through this conflict as quickly as possible?
Well, I wish people would. It's not going to be over quickly. I think it's going to turn into Iraq and Afghanistan. It's going to be all the same thing. Trump was supposed to end it. It was supposed to be. He was our guy. We were voted for him to stop this and bring the troops home. And now he's just turning into another politician.
I understand the frustration, and you're not alone in having that frustration, but I think the time for that debate was before the strike, and then the time for that debate is going to be after we get out of it. As of right now, I'm going to support this administration fully, and I'm going to support the military fully. I'm going to pray that they get through it as quickly as humanly possible. Is that wrong?
No, prayer is very important. That's good.
But my thing is, but one of the things
critical of Trump.
But one of the things that I've said is that we're not privy to the information he's privy to.
Well, you also have to. That now you're getting into how do we know what he's lying and telling the truth about?
Okay,
I believe Joe Kent. I'll vote for Tucker Carlson. I believe Joe Kent over Trump.
Do you believe Joe Kent? Joe Kent, the guy who voted for Bernie Sanders, and you want to talk about flip-flopping, right? You're mad at Donald Trump because he said no new wars. Joe Kent literally voted for Bernie Sanders in the 2020 primary. Joe Kent was a Democrat before he was a libertarian, before he ran as a Republican. Joe Kent
was Tulsi Gabbard, and now you're happy they're in office.
Joe Kent was leaking information and was under investigation. He got out and got in front of it by being anti-war. Because now he can scream political persecutions. I think Joe Kent is a slime ball. If you're a Joe Kent guy, I don't know what to tell you. All right, vote for Joe Kent.
I'm not just gonna blow off everything you said. I'm gonna take it into
Joe Kent but you're blindly believing Joe Kent, who was already siloed out of all of the intel briefings before Operation Epic Fury because they thought he was leaking information. So we can't blindly trust Trump, but the guy who was kicked out of the intel briefings, you're a Joe Kent guy.
I'm saying I would take into consideration the things he says instead of just pushing him off to the side.
Okay. But by all means, consider it, and I've considered it as well, and I think that he's a slime ball.
All right. Well, hey, Chris, I know it's a hot topic, and I have nothing against you, and I just wanted to let you know that I still like the show. It's just getting a little harder to listen to, but.
And you know what, Nelson, I'll tell you what, man, I have nothing against you either, and personally, I think that we're going to be better as a conservative movement if we have these kinds of conversations and not just lose our cool and call the other side. I don't think you're insane for not wanting to be in this war at all.
We got to talk it out because the Democrats don't know how to do that.
100%, man. And I appreciate your call, as always, Nelson in Nashville. My name is Chris Hand, and I have to tell you about my friends at the Glock Store. We talk about the Glock Store a lot. This is where I train. This is where you should train too. They have the Shoot 270 indoor rooms. You are not just punching a paper target in a lane range. That's not how they do things. You're dealing with real world scenarios. A couple weeks ago, I did the simunition force on force training, which was unbelievable. And you should try that too. But if you've never been to the Glock Store, May 30th is going to be the day for you. It's their 6th annual open house, and it is the largest open house celebration that they've ever done. It's going to be an absolute extravaganza. Last year, they gave away over $25,000 in Glock apparel and Glocks. They actually gave away a custom Glock as well. These guys know how to throw an open house. And if you haven't been to the open house, you're going to see great speakers, demonstrations, shooting competitions, vendor tables, free factory swag, and again, the biggest open to the public free gun gear raffle in all of Nashville. How many Glocks are they going to be giving away this year? Still in planning, but we'll keep you posted. Glock Store's 6th annual open house, Saturday, May 30th. I'm going to be there. You should plan on being there as well. Minutes from the airport. We're at the Drive From Anywhere and always open online. Glockstore.com.
Good morning, 10 o'clock. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. I want to let drivers know that eastbound on 24, that accident's been cleared away near Waldron. Traffic is moving again through that area just fine. The next few days of the Iran conflict will be pivotal. That's the word from the Pentagon, which says U.S. objectives are being met. At a morning press briefing, General Dan Kane, who's chairman of the Joint Chiefs, said the U.S. is targeting not just the military sites, but in nuclear research sites in Iran. Warehouses and factories, too. And what about those desalinization plants?
The Joint Force is the most professional force in the world, and we have numerous processes and systems to carefully consider the whole range of considerations, from civilian risk to legal considerations with any target.
War Secretary Pete Hegseth would not give a timeline on how long the conflict will last. It was an Army flyby at Kid Rock's Nashville home over the weekend, and now an investigation.
The Army is reviewing why 2 military helicopters were seen hovering outside the home of Robert James Ritchie, better known as Kid Rock. Ritchie defended the flyby, speaking to our Nashville station.
I think they're going to be all right. My buddy's commander-in-chief.
The helicopters were allegedly the same ones spotted nearby, flying over a No Kings anti-Trump protest Saturday. Some protesters claim the flyover was an intimidation tactic. The Army insists the choppers were flying for training purposes.
That's ABC's Hannah Battah reporting. Tyler Robinson's defense team is asking for a delay in court proceedings to review evidence. Robinson, of course, is the man charged with killing Charlie Clerk. Now, this delay may have something to do with recent reports that said the bullet that killed Kirk may not match the rifle used by Robinson. His lawyers say they're still poring over 20,000 electronic audio files, videos, and written documents that prosecutors have presented in the case. We'll keep following any new developments. Travelers to Palm Beach, Florida will notice a new name. The airport has been renamed President Donald J. Trump International Airport, and it's located on President Donald J. Trump Boulevard. The change came yesterday with legislation signed by Governor Ron DeSantis. And new this morning, Tiger Woods apparently told police he was looking down at his phone and changing a radio station at the same time when he crashed his SUV last weekend. Police said Woods had 2 hydrocodone pills in his pants pocket. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
It's 10:07 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? My name is Chris Hand. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC. Water filtration systems, water softeners, betterwater.com. We're joined in studio by the Senior Director for Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action, my friend Josh Tifo. What's up, Josh?
Having a lot of fun. I'm back on the Chris Hand Show.
Let's go, man. We got a lot to talk about today. We'll get into the Iran stuff and the latest there. But I saw a story that came across the desk last night. I was like, I want Josh's take on this. Chicago Bulls, the Bulls, they're releasing Jaden Ivey, who is he's a decent enough player, young guy, because he was not exactly happy that the NBA was promoting the Rainbow Mafia.
Well, he called it unrighteousness that the NBA was celebrating all this pride stuff. He didn't use some type of culturally banned slur.
No.
He didn't go on some type of rampage. He just called it unrighteousness. Let's phrase it a different way. He said, this ain't right. And in America, we have the fundamental freedom to say this ain't right. He's not saying that something should be illegal. He's not making some type of bold, crazy claim. He's just saying that it's not right that everybody's being forced to celebrate this. Let's put it in a different setting. So let's say that you're a trad wife, and you say publicly that it's not right for some feminist lawyer to work 70 hours a week and spend most of her life acting like her kids don't exist. And then guess what? That feminist lawyer also has the freedom to say it ain't right for a woman to stay at home and stomp on her own career dreams and chase around some kids barefoot in the kitchen and in the backyard. Guess what? We live in America. If you think that something's not right, you're allowed to say this ain't right. That's all that Jaden said. And another thing I have to say about Jaden and his courage, this is not some guy who was going to retire next Tuesday. This is a 20-something combo guard in his prime, rock-solid player, making over $10 million a year, probably $80, $90, $100 million of future earnings over the next 9-10 years in the NBA. He's putting a lot on the line saying what's right, and I applaud you, Jaden Ivey.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's play the comments from Jaden Ivey. He's like in his car, and it looks like his cell phone's on his lap, recording up, and he's not angry. He's not belligerent. He's just talking.
That the world can proclaim LGBTQ. Right? They proclaim Pride Month in the NBA. They proclaim it. They show it to the world. They say, come join us for Pride Month, to celebrate unrighteousness. They proclaim it. They proclaim it on the billboards. They proclaim it in the streets. Unrighteousness. So how is it that one can't speak righteousness? How is it one that how are they to say that this man is crazy?
So that was Jaden Ivey, a combo guard for the Chicago Bulls, and that 30-second, 40-second clip, minute clip cost him his job.
Well, I think he's got a great claim at a lawsuit. I'm not a lawyer, but I think he's looking real good there. Also, the Overton window is significantly shifting on this issue. It makes me think of a story I posted. I know you liked it a few days ago, where it was very simple. I said it should be illegal for two gay men to purchase a baby from a woman and then raise that baby without a mother. If I posted that a few years ago, that's probably 50-50 hate and love. No kidding, it was the most popular story I ever posted, probably 98% positive reaction.
Here's the thing, especially with Democrats. Remember during COVID, they were like, Bud, just wear your mask. If it saves one life, it's worth it. Golly, if we only save one life. Okay, two guys can buy a baby. What happens if that kid gets brutally raped and just tortured for years? Can we end this if it saves one life? If it saves one kid, right? By the Democrat, if it saves just one, isn't that the right thing to do?
Well, you're using Democrat logic, which can't apply to other disciplines because they don't even believe in objective truth. But you bring up a great point. That's one thing that we see in a lot of Western cultures. We see a significant pedophilia problem. Not with everybody, but it's a statistically significant problem when two men purchase these babies. And again, I'm not saying that everyone does that, but I'm saying it is a problem with a lot of them. At the end of the day, I make this argument often. We have to decide what type of civilization we want to live in. And in the United States of America, who you choose to spend your life with as an adult and what you choose to do in your bedroom with another consenting adult, it's up to you. But that doesn't mean that I have to celebrate it. That doesn't mean that you have to celebrate it. It would be ludicrous if I were calling on everyone who is not a Christian in the country to have to celebrate all the things that I believe in. And it is just as ludicrous when you see the Rainbow Mafia demand that the Nashville Predators have a Pride Night like we saw the other night.
Yes.
A tremendous amount of backlash here in Nashville.
But do you know what the most infuriating part about that is? If you're not paying close attention, you show up there with your kids and you don't even realize it. So when we were when we get the promotional marketing emails for the Preds, right? And when I found out that they were having a Pride Night, I was like, that's weird, because I don't remember them mentioning that in the marketing email that they sent this morning. So my wife and I, we went back to the email, and it mentions nothing about Pride Night. You have a band singing the national anthem called The Cowgaze, where a dude is in full makeup wearing a Macho Man Randy Savage jacket, God rest his soul, but it shouldn't be done like that. And so you have the Cowgaze there, you got Pride Night. They don't even mention it in the marketing email. So I was like, that's weird. So then I went to the website, and I clicked on the schedule, and I got to the calendar for the Predators. No mention of Pride Night on the calendar either. It is buried and hidden in the community section.
And
now,
what does this tell us?
They're not exactly proud of it.
The Overton window is shifting on all of this Pride Night, Pride Month nonsense. Everyday Americans are sick of it, and they should be. Why didn't we stand up until now? I was texting someone this morning on my iPhone. Apple still has the pregnant man emoji. You still got the pregnant man emoji on the Apple iPhone.
I don't know. We have to. Can you fact check that? I think it's just Bill Gates. I think it's a Bill Gates emoji.
Oh, that's good. These are the things that we're going to see just kind of disappear into the background on emoji lists and on event calendars. And here's another big thing that I'm going to see, and we actually started to see this last June, thank God. We'll see it to a higher degree this year. You're going to see a number of big corporate sponsors pull out of Pride Month festivities in most cities in the country. You'll still see a lot of it in Chicago and LA and New York, but in most places in the country, Pride Month is going to be largely canceled in June of 2026.
Well, I mean, you saw it last year and then the year before that and the year before that too, where it's like all these companies, their social media accounts will rebrand to Full Rainbow, but the Middle Eastern version of those accounts, they will not. I don't know if you knew this. The Queers for Palestine is just a meme. It's not actually observed in practice. But yeah, I think you're going to see them recoil away from this. But we're also seeing the Democrat Party seem to have a reckoning, where there's talks now behind the scenes that maybe the best candidate for us in 2028 would be a white, straight Christian male. Like, that's insane. Do you think we see a white, straight Christian male as a candidate for the Democrat Party?
They might try. I mean, I really don't know what else they have. The one candidate on their side who has the most authentic energy around them is Tallarico, because of how powerful it is when you pervert the word of God and try to bend it and make it mean what you want it to mean for your leftist political ends. It makes me think of a project that I'll never forget I had in high school, in my high school speech and debate class, when I was forced to argue for Obamacare from the leftist perspective. So 16-year-old me went down a dangerous path, and I learned all of the Bible verses the left at the time was misquoting in order to defend Obamacare, the federal takeover of the healthcare and the health insurance system. And I got up there and I gave a full-on leftist sermon about how all these people were spitting on the sacrifice of Jesus because they didn't want to take care of the poor people in our country. I won the debate. I mean, in a crushing way. Like, the whole room was probably horrified of me. And that was when, at the age of 16, I understood how powerful it is to use the word of God to say things that it doesn't really mean, to quote it out of context, to use emotion. And I'm glad that I had that experience, because I've been very wary of it when I see it from the left and sometimes from moderate conservatives. But Tallarico is the embodiment of that right now. That is the future of the party. Something like that is what we're going to see in 2028.
CBS News in Texas, one of their local affiliates, not exactly sold on Tallarico.
lately have been digging up old statements and videos in which Tallarico has made some remarks that they are trashing. They include that, God is not binary. There are 6 genders, not 2. He was pro-vegan and anti-meat,
That's where we draw the line.
Anti-oil and gas. Abortion is not in the Bible. And so I'm just wondering, how damaging are those past statements that he has made? And on some of them on social media, he says, I approve this message.
So one thing I want to jump in on, and the left likes to allege this every now and then, and it only works because a lot of people don't really study and understand the Word of God enough to know this. The argument that the Bible does not condemn abortion in any type of way. So first, abortion is murder, and we hear about murder a lot in the Old Testament and the New Testament. But
it was one of the main 10 rules, actually.
It was like one of the first things they told us. One of the first things God told us. So what I want to add is some historical context. So one thing that's very unpopular in the Old Testament is that sometimes God calls on heroes of the Old Testament to wipe out entire civilizations, which sounds really extreme. Joshua especially did this a lot. You see it through the whole book of Joshua. When he marched into the Promised Land, he actually wiped out several different civilizations. When you do some historical research, you learn that a lot of these were demon-worshipping civilizations that essentially sacrificed, tortured, and killed, sometimes assaulted children. So they were doing horrific things to kill children in honor of demonic entities. So they were essentially doing spiritually themed abortions, doing all kinds of weird things with pregnant women and babies. And God was fed up. God said, Joshua, go wipe them out. And it's very unpopular to talk about, but that's how God feels about people who wipe out babies for their own convenience, for their own prosperity, for their own means and ends.
Yeah, you're 100% on the mark. We're talking with Josh Tifo, Senior Director of Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action. You're hanging out for a little while, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Let's
perfect.
have some fun.
On the way, I do want to dive into what's going on with Iran and a little bit about Cuba. I learned a fun fact. Our friend Josh Tifo is not welcome in Cuba.
So one of my first days in Florida when Charlie sent me down 11, 12 years ago to build Turning Point Florida, I met some friends and somehow ended up in this huge free Cuba march in Miami. I think it was 11 years ago. And it was a lot of fun. I got photos and everything. And afterwards, one of the organizers comes to me and he's like, Josh, you do know you can never go to Cuba now, right? So I've got a little experience with those people.
We'll talk about that and more on the way. Donald Trump did something shocking. He actually let a boat full of oil into Cuba. Maybe he's not the evil tyrant that they think he is. We'll talk about that and more. It's 10:20. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, what's up? My name is Chris Hand, and for years, Americans have been promised lower prescription drug prices. Recently, there's been a renewed push to make that happen, including efforts to negotiate costs and expand access to lower-priced medications through programs like Trump Rx. For many Tennessee families and seniors, that kind of relief matters big time. But in Tennessee, lawmakers are considering Senate Bill 2040, the Fair Rx Act. Supporters say it's about fixing pricing. Critics are warning that it comes with some serious consequences. And the major concern is pharmacy closures. Some estimates suggest hundreds of locations could shut down, leading to thousands of jobs lost across the state. This is also going to impact patients. More than 1 million people could be left searching for a new place to fill prescriptions, especially in rural areas where access is already limited. The bill could also restrict mail-order prescriptions. This is a key option for seniors, veterans, and those who can't easily travel. Now, critics say that this is big government at its worst, trying to fix one problem but creating several more. So the question becomes, how do you lower costs without cutting off access or eliminating jobs? I don't want you to take my word for it on either side. I'm asking you to do your own research. Learn more at protecttnrx.com.
The Supreme Court gives Colorado Christian therapists a thumbs up. And what the court is taking up tomorrow. That and more at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
1024, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Don't forget, the wife of Representative Byron Donalds, Miss Erica Donalds, is going to be joining the show at 11:05 to talk about the expansion of school choice in Tennessee. Going to be a good conversation. Looking forward to that. Right now, we have Josh Tifo, the Senior Director of Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action in studio. We kind of teased it before, but Cuba is in a bit of dire straits right now. Donald Trump on Friday, or over the weekend, he declared that Cuba was going to be next. They've been dealing with massive power outages. But at the same time, everybody was shocked because Trump let an oil tanker in. And he was on Air Force One on Sunday, and he's like, yeah, that was me. I let them in. This is President Trump.
Should an oil tanker go to Cuba? Is that true?
Well, we have a tanker out there. We don't mind having somebody get a boatload because they have to survive.
So that report is true as far as you know?
Well, I would say, I told them, if a country wants to send some oil into Cuba right now, I have no problem with it.
Do you worry that helps
whether it's Russia or not? What?
Do you worry that helps Vladimir Putin, though?
Doesn't help him. He loses one boatload of oil. That's all it is. It's fine. If he wants to do that, and if other countries want to do it, it doesn't bother me much. It's not going to have an impact. Cuba's finished. They have a bad regime. They have very bad and corrupt leadership. And whether or not they get a boat of oil, it's not going to matter.
So that was the president talking about Cuba, letting in some oil. I think he's doing it for the people, obviously. They've been dealing with a complete blackout on the island, unless you're in a hotel inhabited by leftist podcasters or you're Fidel Castro's grandson. You don't have electricity on the island. Is it too soon to be talking about taking Cuba when we're not done with Iran yet?
It's not too soon because it could largely naturally happen on its own. And I've been seeing the rumblings here for 10, 11, 12 years. You know my take. The United States should not be getting involved in foreign entanglements, willy-nilly, doing whatever we feel like, not making strategic calls, even with a nation as geographically close as Cuba is. I actually like Trump's call on this because he's kind of playing 4D chess. So yes, he actually cares about the people of Cuba, but also he takes a big card away from the regime. So these people are suffering, which means that, let's say that the U.S. blocks the oil. The regime can go to the people and say, you're suffering and people are dying in the hospitals because of evil President Donald Trump. And instead, he's allowing this to happen while the people are continuing to get mad. And there's also another big card that we have to play. We have not totally free, but some level of social media dissemination of info across the island, at least a lot more than we had 5-10 years ago, where enough of the Cuban people are going to learn that they have oil because of Donald Trump that actually turns a lot of the everyday people even more towards the United States. This was an issue that was going to erupt soon. And if it's going to erupt anytime in the next 5-10 years, I would love for it to erupt while Donald Trump is president. He's the perfect person to deal with this. There's also not a human being in the entire United States who understands this issue better than Marco Rubio. I knew that whole crowd very well 10, 11, 12 years ago. They actually helped me start and build Turning Point Florida way back in the day in South Florida. That was the epicenter of Turning Point in the state, which had some amazing cultural and political ramifications for the future of the state. Now it's, this hardened Republican state. I love Florida. Right. Amazing people. The Cuban resistance movement, young activists in South Florida were actually my first chapter leaders and some of my first staffers for Turning Point Florida. And they have family members who are over in Cuba. Some of them had been in Cuba when they were younger. It's very heavy on my heart, and I don't want to make emotional decisions. I want to make rational decisions. If there is a pathway for a largely natural, organic uprising to happen that kicks out this regime, that's pretty great. They're very close. May we not forget how poorly things could have gone in the 60s when one of our enemies was planting missiles there just off the coast of Miami.
So if you were to game plan this out, do we have a free and prosperous Cuba in the next 5 years?
I would absolutely love for us to, and I think we will. There are a lot of the right people at play who actually know how this works. You have somebody who has the political will in Donald Trump, and you have somebody who is literally the foremost expert on American-Cuba relations, I would argue, in the world, in Marco Rubio. This was one issue that he talked about extensively on the campaign trail back when he ran for president in 2016. I know that's been a big focus of his ever since he was a local politician in Florida. So overall, I see all the right pieces in place. It has to be handled well. I'm not saying we need to send in a bunch of troops or do anything crazy or do anything stupid, but we have the most advanced military in human history. We have the most advanced military technology in human history. You saw what we did in Venezuela.
The discombobulator.
These Castro people are terrified of us. You could see some precision actions that change everything in a matter of a few days.
How much clout does the Castros still have in Cuba?
They have some. I mean, you know how it works in these totalitarian regimes. A lot of the people who are on top, who still have power today, who own a lot of the things, they love it. And that's actually the way that you protect a regime like this for so many decades. The Castros have done a decent job of this. The person who's actually done a better job of this than anyone I've seen in modern history is Vladimir Putin, where Vladimir Putin has built this wall of oligarchs around him, where there are all these powerful billionaires who own things at his will, who are protecting him at all times. So people say like, oh, this dissident died, it's Vladimir Putin. Putin probably didn't even know about that. Like one of the people in the wall he built around him, somebody who owns a huge oil and gas company or who owns some big food company or whatever, they probably took care of it before Putin's people even knew. That's the way that you keep a totalitarian regime like that running. You build a wall of powerful people around you who take care of your problems, and in exchange, you enrich them and you enrich their families and their descendants. So you have to deal with that wall of people, but it's a much easier nut to crack than Russia and then a lot of these other nations, because there's not a lot of wealth left. There's decades and decades and decades of dwindling resources, dwindling prosperity. You look at their economy, it's a shadow of what it used to be. And it's sad because I love the Cuban people. A lot of the best ones are in Miami now. It's one of the reasons why Miami is one of the greatest American cities. But I would love to see a renaissance in Cuba. I think it would be very good. I would actually be open to some wild future possibilities. I would not hate it being a U.S. territory. I've never heard that floated.
I haven't either.
It makes a ton of strategic sense. Think about what you could do with tourism. Think about what you could do with the natural resources there. And there are a lot of these prominent, powerful, wealthy Cubans who fled the island, came to Miami, came to the rest of the country, and made a ton of money. Very entrepreneurial people, one of the best sub-people groups in the entire nation as far as what they actually come and create. Very family-oriented, very religious. They work very hard. I love the Cuban people. And a lot of these Cuban Americans would be all for going back and building infrastructure in Cuba. I know a lot of them personally. So
that's interesting.
I could see a pathway towards Cuba someday in my lifetime being a U.S. territory.
Something to pray for. We got Josh Tipo in studio on the way. We'll talk a little bit about Iran. It's 10:31. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, no kidding. Of any.
I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. The Supreme Court is out with its ruling that says Colorado Democrats' ban on talk therapy for kids identifying as transgender is unconstitutional. The ban on so-called conversion therapy, say the justices, violates the free speech rights of Christian therapists. Well, tomorrow the Supreme Court takes up the issue of birthright citizenship and whether the Constitution actually says anyone born on U.S. soil is a U.S. citizen. Here's Shannon Bream at Fox News.
The Trump administration's brief in this case, though, points to a lot of the history and quotes from courts' previous decisions and history and text of the law, saying it was meant to make sure that the children of freed slaves would be free and have the opportunity to be recognized as U.S. citizens.
Others say that we've been interpreting the law to say anyone born on U.S. soil is a U.S. citizen. President Trump signed an executive order on the first day of his second term. It denies citizenship to children born to parents in the country illegally. A ruling is expected in June. A woman has died of her injuries after falling off a cliff at the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. Here's News 2's Nikel Smith.
The 65-year-old woman fell about 60 feet on the Alum Cave Trail. This happened Saturday. The 4.5-mile trail is popular, and the Park Service warns it does get steep past Arch Rock.
Now, a day before that incident, there was a sudden rock slide along a winding road there. 2 park visitors were hospitalized when the boulders hit their cars. That's the latest news. Stick around for weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand here for the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Are you dealing with pain, back pain, neck pain, sciatica, herniated or bulging discs, spinal stenosis, maybe numbness and weakness in your arms and legs? It's a long list, but if you're dealing with any of it, you need to make a call to the Wellness Institute of Nashville. They have my seal of approval on a deal that could change your life. How does 47% off non-surgical spinal decompression sound? Sounds like a deal you're not going to find anywhere else. This is not basic therapy. This is the most advanced tech in all of Tennessee. We're talking robotic lasers, anti-gravity machines, cryotherapy, and the hydrowave technology that will stimulate your own stem cells for healing at the cellular level. What you're not going to find, opioids, painful injections, surgery, none of that. This is why Dr. Mitchell needs to be your doctor. This is what you do. You bring your MRI, they'll take x-rays if needed, and then they'll walk you through exactly what's happening and give you a real treatment plan to fix your pain for good. Starts with a phone call, 615-246-5009, 615-246-5009, or find them online at painisbad.com. That's painisbad.com. .38 minutes past the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. Show's brought to you by our friends at Better Water LLC. You can find us on all the apps, the FM dial, and YouTube and Rumble. Smash the subscribe button while you're there. Appreciate you doing so. Josh Tifo is in studio, Senior Director for Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action. What's up, Josh?
Living the dream. I'm on the Chris Hand Show. Mom, I made it.
Not yet. Not yet. You're working there. Where are you? I feel like you made it before you came on the show, but anyway. What do you think about Iran? We are now day 31. At least for me, it seems like in the past week and a half or so, the administration has really started highlighting that 4 to 6 week timeline again. And I don't think that's by mistake. I think that is on purpose. Do you think we're out of this by mid-April?
We better be. I'm not sure if we will be. But at the end of the day, Trump said over and over and over and over again throughout his campaign and afterwards that he was opposed to forever wars. So here's what I assume is happening. President Trump is on your team and he's on my team, and he is waking up every morning and he is praying to God that he can keep this from becoming a forever war. And there are all kinds of people around him in the military-industrial complex who want this to be a 7-year war. And Trump is politically at war with these people who want to extend it. That's what I believe is happening. And the best way that we can avoid the forever war, which we absolutely must avoid, or we will have a complete cultural and political catastrophe in the country, is for us to aggressively deal with the problem over the next several weeks. That's the only out that I see.
And I think that's an important distinction there. No more forever wars. People will say that he campaigned on no new wars. But others will say, no, he campaigned on no more forever wars.
No more forever wars, and you could argue that some of the messaging bled into no new wars, and that's what a lot of young men believed, and that's why a lot of people are very mad right now. But as president of the United States, sometimes you have to dive into conflicts you don't want to dive into. There were a lot of people back in the 40s who did not want to get involved in World War II. It was a complete mess, and it took an extreme intervention from the bad guys, Pearl Harbor, for us to finally get to a point where we're like, okay, we got to do something about this.
I'm chuckling because I remember the prime minister of Japan in the Oval Office a couple days ago, and Trump said, "You guys know about surprises. It'll be a surprise, right?" Everybody, and watching the female prime minister of Japan's face just kind of like recoil a little bit. She's like, "Oh God."
I love the social dominance of President Trump. It's something that will be studied and discussed literally for centuries. If Jesus doesn't come back sometime in the next few hundred years, it will be studied for centuries. Because his social dominance, which is so subtle, is one of the reasons why he's respected and feared. He's respected by our allies, and he's feared by our enemies because he has the power to pull off a joke like that.
Yes, and it was hilarious. It was he's one of the funniest presidents, the funniest president we've ever had. But people say that he's flipped. And I played this clip earlier. He posted it on True Social last night. And people are like, oh, you're going back way. And I'm like, yeah, but you're building the context. People say he flipped on the no new wars, the no more forever wars. But I think the case is to be made that he's been very consistent on Iran. He posted this clip last night on True Social of him doing an interview in the 80s with Barbara Walters.
Because I'm running for the presidency. I'm here because I'm personally tired of seeing this great country of ours being ripped off.
But as far as Trump is concerned, our allies are only part of the problem. The real culprit is Iran.
Why couldn't we go in and take over some of their oil, which is along the sea?
How would you do that? Would you send in the Marines? Would you take a chance in a war?
Let them have Iran. You take their oil. That's what
How?
How?
I mean, do we want a war? What do you mean we take their oil?
You go in. You're
How
have
do
a
we
war,
go
Barbara.
in?
You're going to have a war by being weak.
Okay, how do we go in? What do we do?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
You're going to have a war, and it's going to start in the Middle East.
What if the Soviet Union said, you do this to Iran, we're going to come in?
I don't believe they'd do it. The next time Iran attacks this country, go in and grab one of their big oil installations, and I mean grab it and keep it, and get back your losses, because this country has lost plenty because of Iran.
He posts the clip and he's making the case like, I haven't flipped on Iran.
He hasn't flipped, but he's also listened to the American people. We didn't want any more forever wars. Afghanistan was a complete, abject, total failure. Iraq was a failure. I mean, one of the things that just is like nails on a chalkboard to me, we spend all of that money, and the money's bad, and all the political mess is bad. But what makes me 100 times more mad is how many Americans we lost. How many of you may be listening today lost family members and friends because of a totally useless war from a geopolitical standpoint? That breaks my heart. And it doesn't negate their sacrifice. I mean, thank God for what they did for our country. But it was evil that the United States sent our sons and our daughters into the firing line to attempt a regime change, a nation build, and a nation of a lot of fundamentally bad people. I mean, what's one of the first things that the Iraqi politicians did when they had full control? They legalized child marriage again. Like, what on earth are we trying to change? Like, the new people are doing evil stuff all over again. So I understand why the American people are mad about the idea of even maybe being in another forever war. You should be. And I trust President Trump. Trump has been consistent on this for many, many, many decades. And the one thing that he did say on the campaign trail was no forever wars. He wanted to avoid any new wars, but he also promised that Iran would not have a nuclear weapon. That was also a promise that he made on the campaign trail. And if the intel he was receiving was even kind of true, then we were hitting a breaking point technologically where they could have protected their nuclear program in a year or two, maybe less, and reached a point where we could not have really messed with it. And you would have had to deal with what the future looks like when Iran has a nuclear weapon, have to negotiate with them. They're threatening to wipe out Israel. And for those of you who don't care about Israel, which I think you should, but for those of you who don't care about Israel, there's hundreds of thousands of Americans in Jerusalem. So you should care about the Americans there if you only care about that. And that's what I primarily care about.
Well, and what did we say on this show, you and I talking? We're not privy to the information the president is privy to. So he has information that we didn't have. Did he know that their missile capability could reach Diego Garcia, that it could go much further? I mean, there's potential there. We all learned in real time. I mean, by the grace of God, one of the missiles blew up in the air and then the other one was taken out. But when you zoom out a little bit and you go, oh, gee, we knew that the Iranians were in Venezuela, and Venezuela is within that 4,000 kilometers of the United States. London, Paris, Rome. Yeah, you can make the argument that they were the imminent threat that President Trump said they were.
And at the end of the day, if we have to deal with Venezuela and Cuba and Iran at some point in the next 5, 10, 15 years, would you rather it be now under Trump and Rubio and Hegseth, or would you rather it be some other time? And that's not me advocating for forever wars. None of these better turn into forever wars. So we'll have a complete catastrophe. We'll lose the base. That will be an important betrayed promise that we cannot afford. But if anybody's going to deal with these in short order, I mean, I trust Trump and Rubio and Hegseth about as much as anyone. I don't know the president really well. Like, we've spent a little bit of time together throughout the years. Charlie was really close to him. I wasn't really personally close to him. But I've spent some time with Hegseth. I've spent some time with Rubio. I mean, these are some of the best guys I know in politics, and I trust them. So I trust them, but I don't trust the system. I don't trust the military-industrial complex that right now is making some very evil people hundreds of millions of dollars like that. And you look at the asymmetries in warfare, it's crazy. You see one of these terrorist groups sending up a $500 ghetto-rigged drone with C4 strapped to it. And then we are turning on one of our launchers and have all this staff doing all these checks. And we have like something that shoots from space. And then we shoot a missile that costs $1.3 million. And all considered, we're spending $2 million to shoot down every $500 drone. I mean, all they've got to do to win over time is just bleed us of our resources by sending as many ghetto-rigged drones as they can. We saw a version of this strategy in Russia. It's a problem. We have to become more agile. The whole military-industrial complex needs to be taken down. That whole thing needs to be optimized.
To your point about who would you rather trust, I mean, Kamala Harris on the debate stage said that Iran was a threat. So I think that we would find ourselves in a similar conflict to this if Kamala had been the president. Ugh, I don't like saying it out loud, but, you know.
And may we not forget, without Charlie Kirk and without Turning Point, Kamala would be the president.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's a great time to remind the audience, without the youth vote swing we saw from 20 to 24, Trump would have lost every battleground state except for Georgia, and Kamala would have easily won. So may we not forget how close we came to actually seeing that happen.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But so Kamala would have been in there, but these guys that are in there now, they're going through the kick their teeth down their throat method as opposed to tiptoeing around the situation. I don't know if Kamala Harris would be able to do the same thing. Donald Trump negotiating behind the scenes. I don't know if they would even take a phone call from Kamala Harris, because I don't know if you've been paying attention. The Muslims don't really value the opinions of women much. So do they even get on the horn with Kamala Harris?
So the whole Kamala situation, because she is so inept as a politician and as a leader, it would have turned into a Biden-esque situation where it's leadership by committee. And a lot of these people a level below the president would just be doing whatever they want. You would have basically just seen Biden 2.0 with nobody taking Kamala seriously, including her own team.
I see a lot of people that will tell you Trump has no information, no intel, that his team is lying to him. What's your response to those kinds of accusations that you see online and from different individuals?
Well, what I think is crazy is that you think so lowly of one of the most successful modern leaders in world history. I mean, He's Donald Trump. Like, he's done a lot of things, cutting his teeth in the real estate world in a very tough time to rise in his 20s and in his 30s in New York City, when there were a lot of not so savory elements dominating a lot of the business community. Like, you gotta be a pretty hard dude to make it in real estate when in your 20s and in your 30s back in the golden era of building New York City. And then everything that he went through, and I mean, he gets raided and he gets shot. He has more felonies hung on him than Al Capone. I mean, this is a tough guy. Do you think that he knows that sometimes he's being lied to? When some foreign country puts some intel on his desk, do you think that he's just automatically taking it as fact? He is probably verifying the verifications for everything that he's seeing, because he knows how many powerful and evil people want him in a forever war. He knows how many people are going to make a lot of money if he's in a forever war. And here's the biggest reason. He knows that his political movement will be permanently destroyed if he's dragged into a forever war. The MAGA movement will be dead if we're in some 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old Iraq/Afghanistan style conflict. He knows that the bad guys are trying to drag him into that to destroy the movement that he nearly gave his life to build. The movement that Charlie Kirk did give his life to build. So, I mean, how dumb do you think he is? He didn't get this far by just believing everything that came across his desk.
I was looking for a text while you were crushing it. Somebody had said, even Kamala Harris wouldn't have dragged us into this conflict. And I'm like, yeah, Kamala with all of her strength.
What's the message to Iran?
Don't.
As President Biden said, just don't.
Exactly.
Yeah, peace through strength.
I don't know about you, but that convinced me.
Peace through, yeah, she wouldn't. No, of course not.
What's the message to Iran?
Don't.
As President Biden said, just don't.
Exactly. One word. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've actually changed my mind.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could go back in time and vote for her after that. Wow.
You're absolutely right.
Oh, my goodness. You convinced me, Chris. This was a dangerous segment.
Speaking of going back in time, this is Trump in 2015.
I will stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons.
They cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's not about the Straits. You know, a lot of people covered it incorrectly. They never mentioned. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. They'd use it, and they're not going to have a nuclear weapon.
As long as I'm president of the United States, Iran will never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon.
He flip-flopped. 100%.
And this brings up an important point, and I love that you're driving this home. He made two really big promises that are applicable here. He promised no more forever wars, and he promised that Iran would not have a nuclear weapon. So he has to find a way to act decisively to keep both of those promises. And it's starting to look like the only way to keep both of those promises at the same time is decisive, furious, aggressive action, getting in, getting out, making sure this is not a forever war.
If you were able to look into a crystal ball, where does the off-ramp come in the Iranian conflict?
I hope and pray that we're completely out of there in 2 to 3 months. And it could be a lot earlier than that, but
here's the thing that scares me about that.
It could be another few months.
If it's 2 to 3 months,
and that's not direct intel from the White House or anything. That's just me summarizing and predicting based on what I see.
If it's 2 to 3 months, that means that high gas prices are going to linger through the summer. I think we take it in the shorts in the midterms at that point.
It could be rough, except that leaves a few months before the midterms, actually more than a few months, several months, where things begin to ameliorate. And there's also another thing coming down the pike. We're about to finally see that awful Fed chair replaced. So that's going to happen a little bit later this year. You're going to see lower interest rates. You're going to see a lot more economic optimism. You're going to see increased investment domestically and internationally. I think things are rough for a few months, and things could be looking pretty rosy by early November. That's my prediction.
Interesting. Josh Tifo, how can we keep up with you online?
At Josh Tifo, T-H-I-F-A-U-L-T, at Josh Tifo, T-H-I-F-A-U-L-T, on everything.
Appreciate the time. Josh Tifo, it's 10:53. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand. For years, Americans have been promised lower prescription drug prices. Recently, there's been a renewed push to make that happen, including efforts to negotiate costs and expand access to lower-priced medications through programs like Trump Rx. For many Tennessee families and seniors, that kind of relief matters. But in Tennessee, lawmakers are considering Senate Bill 2040. This is the Fair RX Act, the Fair Prescription Act. Supporters say it's about fixing pricing. Critics are warning that it could come with some serious unintended consequences, and the major concern is pharmacy closures. Some estimates say hundreds of locations could shut down, which leads to thousands of jobs lost across the state. And it also impacts patients. More than 1 million people could be left searching for new places to fill prescriptions, especially in those rural areas where access is already limited. And then on top of that, the bill could also restrict mail-order prescriptions, which is a big option for seniors and veterans and people that can't easily travel. Critics say this is big government at its worst, trying to fix one problem and creating about a dozen more. So the question becomes, how do you lower the costs without cutting off access or eliminating jobs? I don't know all the answers, and I'm not asking you to take my word for it. I'm asking you to do your own research. Learn more at protecttnrx.com.
Hey, this is Pastor Al, and join us on Super Talk 99.7, Sunday evenings from 7 to 8. We're going to look at the news from a biblical perspective.
The National Transportation Safety Board, they have now joined the investigation into Friday's deadly school bus crash and fraud allegations against a Middle Tennessee distillery. We'll have all that coming up for you at 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
58 minutes past the hour. I'm Chris Sand, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You can find us anywhere, Twitter, True Social, Instagram. You can find me on all those platforms at Chris Hand on Air. We are also live on YouTube and Rumble. We're going to be having an interview here in a moment with Erica Donalds. Erica Donalds is a big fan of school choice. I like it in theory. I have some big questions when it comes to school choice. And when they reached out for the interview, Erica Donalds is obviously Byron Donalds' wife, and she's the she's the America First Institute Chair of Education Opportunity. So they said, we want to talk about school choice. I said, okay, that's great. But I have a few issues, and I don't want to do a gotcha interview. So these are my issues. I don't think that we're actually giving poor kids the opportunity that we're being told we're giving them, because your average private school is what, $14,000-$15,000, and in Tennessee we're giving them $72.95. So how do you make up the middle? And then my other issue is our tax dollars going towards Islamic schools, and how I don't like my tax dollars funding the replacement of Western culture. So I made these gripes as they requested the interview, and they said, you know what? Erica Donalds loves good conversation. She's not going to shy away from those questions at all. We'd love to do the interview with you. And I said, perfect. We'll do the interview. So we're going to do that next, right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 11 a.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. A full weather forecast coming up here in a little bit. The National Transportation Safety Board, they have joined the investigation into Friday's school bus crash in Carroll County. That crash killing 2 middle schoolers and injuring scores of others.
Tributes, memories, and raw emotion as Kenwood Middle School students remember Ariana Pearson and Zoe Davis, the 2 students killed in Friday's bus crash in Carroll County.
Pray for our community.
29 people were on that bus, most of them students, when dashcam footage shows the bus drifting over the double yellow line and slamming head-on into a T-Dot truck.
Channel 4's Steve Melling, he also says the bus involved was a newer model, which that includes some crash avoidance technology, and it's got 3-point seatbelts in it. The investigation, they're going to look into whether those features were activated during this particular incident. An organized crime theft ring has been taken down in Spring Hill, Tennessee. This one involving illegal immigrants. Channel 2's Andy Cordan, he reports the 2 men that were busted in Spring Hill. They were stealing all kinds of stuff from a Ross Dress for Less store.
Moments after crime suppression officers take 2 men with Florida licenses into custody.
License? Okay. You have a driver license. No driver license? Golly.
When officers look in their vehicle, a van that's loaded with stolen shoes.
This isn't from just this Ross.
Police also find the cut price tags all over the floor.
Look at all these tags. They've been busy.
The 2 men were in a car that had Florida license plates. One was released on bond. The other guy, he's being held at an ICE detaining facility. He's in the country illegally from Cuba. He entered the U.S. back in 2022 when Mr. Biden was president. And new allegations against the Uncle Nearest distillery, Farm Credit Mid-America, the lender who's accusing owners Fawn and Keith Weaver of fraud, say they also hid a $20 million loan that they got from rapper Jay-Z's company. Uncle Nearest is accused of insolvency and owing at least $220 million. Farm Credit accuses the Weavers of misusing all that money, and a judge has rejected a recent bankruptcy filing by those 2. That's the latest news. Weather's up next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
It's 11:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. The show's brought to you by our friends at Better Water LLC, water filtration systems, water softeners, betterwater.com. You can listen to the show anywhere, iHeartRadio, tune in, the FM dial. You can watch the show as well on YouTube and Rumble. Hit the subscribe button. We appreciate you helping us grow the digital footprint of the radio station. And we're joined now by Erica Donalds. She's the America First Policy Institute Chair of Education Opportunity, also the wife of Representative Byron Donalds. And I'm excited to have a little bit of time with you, Ms. Donalds. Thank you for joining the program.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
I'm really excited to have you here. You and Congressman Donalds have been real leaders on school choice in Florida, where the program, you guys are now serving hundreds of thousands of students, and there's a lot of funding, millions to billions. As a conservative here in Tennessee who's believing that the public schools are failing our kids and have a bit of a monopoly, I love school choice in theory. I really do. Parental power, competition, I think breeds winning results. But how it works in practice, I've been wrestling with. Can you walk us through why Florida's results convince you that the promises being met on the ground?
Well, sure. And it's not just about Florida's results. There have been over 200 studies on school choice in general, many times private school choice, 80% of which are showing positive results. And that could be on academic performance. It could be on college going, college persistence, less discipline issues. But all of those, 80% of those 200 studies showing positive results, the remaining studies showed no effect. So there are 0 studies that show a negative impact. So the data shows that school choice is working for students, not to mention parent satisfaction and the amount of demand that we see across the country, including in Tennessee, for parents to participate in these programs and get help with selecting the school that they believe is going to work best for their kids.
And I understand that there's a lot of success when it happens, but my one of my questions is about the access for lower income families. I mean, in Florida, the average award is what, $8,000 to $9,500. Here in Tennessee, it's about $7,200. But the average tuition in Florida is $14,000. The average tuition here in Tennessee is about $12,000 to $13,000. So that's a pretty big gap of a few $1,000s for truly low-income families in places like Murfreesboro or more rural areas. How does this actually get the kids that are in these low-income families into private schools?
Well, certainly the average tuition, though, doesn't tell the full story, because if you go into low-income communities here in Florida, and I'm sure they're in Tennessee as well, the schools that are targeting those communities that are looking to serve those kids are pricing accordingly, or they're raising money to make up any difference in tuition that's necessary. I mean, we all know there are private schools that are charging $30,000 and $45,000. So that's skewing the average, and those families are not generally using these scholarships. Those schools are not taking these scholarships. But the good news is we know how the free market works. The more supply we have and the more consumers in the market with those dollars to spend, that is actually going to drive down prices, increasing that competition and also increasing quality. It's what we see in every other area of our economy.
Aren't you worried, though, that because this doesn't bridge the gap, that you're really only helping middle and upper income families close the deal rather than rescuing the kids that are trapped in these failing public schools?
Not at all, because I have seen this in practice in my community, which is incredibly diverse demographically, where it is helping those low-income students get out of their traditional public school environments and have other options. Sometimes it does mean that there's some skin in the game from those families. My husband famously has a story about how his mom sacrificed to pay the difference between a scholarship and private school tuition to give him a better opportunity in life. But I believe that with a greater number of these school choice options available to families, that families will have more and more quality options to choose from. And it's better that these programs are universal, because you're bringing more providers into the marketplace, because there's a wider net of consumers available to those providers. That is how the market works.
Do you worry, though, that this is going to give private schools the opportunity to raise tuition because they know that the families that are there that are now getting these scholarships are going to have more free money available?
Sure. And we've seen that happen with existing private schools, because families like mine are already paying $12,000 tuition. So when they know we're getting another $9,000 from the state, they're going to take advantage of that and raise the tuition. However, what we see in new schools opening is that their tuition prices are much closer to the scholarship amount. And I believe that those new schools that are opening that are targeting families that have the scholarship, they're going to price it accordingly. And that's going to actually drive the existing schools that have increased their tuition back down to start competing on price with other schools.
We're speaking with Erica Donalds. She is the America First Policy Institute Chair of Education Opportunity. She's also the wife of Representative Byron Donalds. We're grateful for the time that we have with you. And you're a huge fan of school choice. Again, I like it in theory. In practice, I get a little heartburn, especially when it comes to tax dollars going to Islamic schools. I mean, a practical concern that hits home for a lot of conservatives is that here in Tennessee, where are the tax dollars ending up? In Florida, your state's program has directed over $18 million to just 2 Tampa Islamic schools. Hifz Academy received $15.7 million since 2015, including $3.7 million in 2024 for 501 students. And then you had Bayan Academy receiving $2.67 million since 2017, including $1.5 million in 2024. Florida's own Attorney General and cabinet members have publicly raised alarms that some of those schools promote Sharia law in ways that they say conflict with American values and Florida law. Here in Tennessee, our new Education Freedom Scholarship provides $72.95 per student, and Islamic schools like Anur Academy of Chattanooga, they're already approved and participating. So that gives me heartburn. Are we using our tax dollars to fund the replacement of American values and traditional Western Christian values here by allowing these tax dollars to go to competing ideologies in these schools?
Well, I would argue that the tax dollars that are going into the traditional public school system, especially those that are controlled by radical left-wing teachers unions, are also using tax dollars for radical ideology.
It's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Muslim schools, obviously we cannot discriminate based on religion alone, but there are both federal and state laws on the books that would prevent money from going to an organization that is supporting terrorist organizations. And so I think those existing laws, and our research at America First Policy Institute has shown this as well, that both our Florida Attorney General and the Attorney General of Tennessee need to look very closely at what is being taught, where this money is going beyond the school itself, and use their laws that are already on the books to enforce accordingly for its participation in any school choice program.
What kind of what kind of reporting or watchdog groups do we have to make sure that we're not funding these competing ideologies that conservative families don't appreciate? Like, how do we keep the guardrails up so that way this doesn't become an issue down the road?
Yeah, thankfully, there are watchdog groups, I believe, in every state. We've heard from them, as you've said, in Tennessee. People are raising alarms here in Florida. In Texas, we saw, unfortunately, we lost a court case there, and they're going to have to figure out, again, how to use laws that are already on the books if there are concerns about any of this money going to anything besides just normal, like, mainstream religious instruction. So there are things that need to be done, and there are several groups that are out there that are sounding alarms, and I encourage that because transparency is the best form of accountability. It allows our lawmakers to adjust accordingly when there are issues. And that's also how we know about the political ideologies that have been pushed down in our traditional public school settings that have caused parents to want these options to take place. So this is a good process for us to go through. It's a good process politically as well as for the community and the culture to get around school choice and education freedom, figure out how we make sure we hold these schools accountable, both for what they're teaching, for their outcomes, and for fiscal responsibility.
So we've talked a lot about the concerns, and those are, I feel like they're well documented, and I do appreciate you tackling each one step by step by step. Let's talk about the benefits that you've seen. What success have you seen that you want replicated from Florida elsewhere in the country?
Well, you may not know my story, but the reason why I do this is because I was told when my son was in first grade that if he did not go on medication, he would need to go in a special classroom, and not a special classroom in my neighborhood school where I had bought a home and I wanted him to go every day. They were going to put him on a bus every day and send him across town. That was not going to work for me. But early in our careers, we couldn't afford private school. There were no charter schools in our community. So I was stuck in between a rock and a hard place, and I had to put tuition on a credit card because I would rather go into debt than have my son go into an environment where he was miserable and these people did not care about him and wanted him medicated. And so I know there are hundreds, thousands, I hear from them all the time, of parents like me where the traditional public school environment is not meeting their children's needs for one reason or another. That's why we have wait lists on all of our charter schools, on our private schools, on our school choice programs like in Tennessee, where you have more than double the number of spaces in applications, and in Texas, where 250,000 applicants came in for just 80,000 spots. And so that's the evidence that we need. We need to know that parents want this, desire it. Every polling shows that. And that when we open up the marketplace, more providers come in to provide great education for these families.
Is this the only pathway forward? Do you think that we have to do this to fix our public schools, or is there no fixing our public schools?
I believe public schools can fix themselves, but we have to break the monopoly that they have. No monopoly in the United States of America has operated at its highest quality for the benefit of the consumer and of the taxpayers and the stakeholders. And public education is no different. That is why it is not responsive. That is why they get more money when they fail. And every other industry where America is leading the world in business, in innovation, technology, medicine, higher education, consumers have choices, and the organizations are competing for the dollars that the consumers bring with them. We have to have that in education if we're going to have better outcomes and if we're going to compete globally for the betterment and for the preservation of our republic.
If we're going to go down that route, should we defund the public schools entirely? Like here in Tennessee, I think it's about $14,000 to educate a student publicly. And one of the selling points of the education scholarship was that not all the dollars are going to leave that school. Is that a bad message to send? Should we just defund them entirely, where every dollar that would go to that student follows that student?
Every education dollar that taxpayers spend should be parent directed. It is the only way to capture the fullest extent of the free market competitive pressures. When a student leaves a school, I don't care if it's public, private, charter, that school should feel the financial consequences of not meeting that student's needs. And therefore, when the student goes to a school, that next school should have the opportunity with the full funding available to meet that student's needs and help them to achieve the American dream. That is the way the free market can work best.
How does this scale out across the country if we were to expand this to all 50 states? If there was a nationwide plan, how does this work in practice?
Well, I'm actually leading an effort called the Education Freedom Accelerator, which is working with individual states to adopt a set of principles that not only govern the allowable expenses that taxpayers should allow for these dollars to expend it on, but also reciprocity on providers that are meeting students' needs. Let's say in the state of Florida, a school that's doing well, has great academic performance. Why shouldn't that provider be able to go into Tennessee very easily, replicate and serve parents there as well? So we need to create more of a cohesive system, especially with the federal tax credit scholarship coming online next year. So parents can not only stack funds, but that providers that are doing well can move easily from state to state and scale across the country.
Does eliminating the Department of Education make it easier to move state to state, or does that create a bit more of a hiccup in doing that?
It actually does make it easier because we don't have to go through the federal government and its red tape and requirements. States can work with one another, like we've done with teacher certification, for example. There is reciprocity for teacher certification in many states, and that has been done without any help from the federal government. It's the federal government that actually makes it harder and more bureaucratic for states to work together and come to agreements on things like this.
Government is not the answer. It is the problem. Mrs. Erica Donalds, thank you so much for your time today and for your willingness to have a real conversation about school choice. I really do appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate the thoughtful questions, and any more information can be found at youredfreedom.org.
Hey, real quick before we let you go, how's the governor's race going, and are you ready to be the First Lady of Florida?
I'm ready as I'll ever be for something so big for a state that I love so much. But the governor's race is going incredibly well. My husband is way out front when it comes to fundraising, polling. Of course, he has President Donald J. Trump's support. And, we've been involved in politics and from the Tea Party movement for the last 15 years, back in the grassroots as well. And we're seeing the fruit of that and the hard work that he's done across the state for many years. So it's really encouraging. We're blessed and very humble by all this.
Well, I just want to let you know we're rooting for him here in Tennessee. I had the opportunity to meet your husband at Turning Point's America Fest a couple years ago, and your husband actually went down into the audience to help a World War II veteran in a wheelchair get to the front row so that way he could see President Trump's speech. And I was able to shake his hand. Not a weak handshake at all. Very, very strong, firm handshake, but just an all-around great guy. So we wish him the best of luck, and we're praying for your success.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you for the time. It's 11:22. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand here for my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. And when something goes wrong in your home, you want a team that shows up, fixes it right, fixes it fast, and treats you like family the entire time. That's Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Your trusted pros for total home comfort. Right now is the perfect time to upgrade your system if you've been kicking the can down the road. Say your AC went out at the end of last summer. Now you can get it fixed, and you can save some money. You get yourself a 16-SEER high-efficiency HVAC system. You're going to land some amazing TVA rebates. The money is going to be saved, and you're not going to have to do a thing. You see, Busy Bee is going to file all the rebates for you. You don't have to lift a finger. All you have to do is save money. It's a good deal. You're also going to get hooked up with a Yeti Tundra 45 cooler for free. You might say, Chris, I love these perks, but I don't have any HVAC issues. Well, do you need a whole home repipe? If you land one today from Busy Bee, you'll also get that Yeti Tundra 45 cooler for free. Also, join the Beehive Club membership. You can keep your home humming year-round. You get great benefits like priority scheduling, discounted repairs, free annual HVAC and plumbing checks, plus extended warranties, and that peace of mind knowing your equipment is always running at its best. It's the easiest way to save money and avoid breakdowns and protect your home. Call my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling today, 615-775-7833, 615-775-7833, or find them online, busybeehvac.com.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth speaking at a news conference today. We'll let you know some of what was said. And the U.S. Supreme Court makes a decision on a controversial issue in Colorado. We'll have those stories and more coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's Jay Harper in the newsroom. My name is Chris Hand. It's 11:26 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Mason Fleming is producing. And I got my friend Walter Blanks Jr. in studio. Walt, you're in the weeds on a lot of the education scholarship stuff. You've helped it get passed in quite a few states, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Can you give me your background on the education stuff?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, where I was surrounded by poverty, crime, and low expectations. Almost a different public school every year. Parents worked multiple jobs, and I was severely bullied, and my mom had the final straw when the principal said, if you just give us 5 years, we'll have the middle school turned around and the high school turned around. And my mom looked at him and said, in 5 years, Walter will either be in jail or in a body bag, and we don't have time for either of those things. And so because of the school choice program in Ohio, found myself in a small private Christian school and really just took off, began to love learning. Teachers invested in me. And it really just began to take a shape of its own. And then I started advocating. I didn't understand that this whole school choice thing was political. I just wanted every student to have the same opportunity that I did. So I was 14 years old, testifying at the State House, and then working with groups in Ohio to expand it and just become the voice of this great program. And then that 3X, 4X was traveling around D.C., met President Trump in his first term and told him that I was coming for his job, but really just believed that every single child, regardless of economic background and where they come from, should have access to a high-quality education.
What did you think about the interview with Erica Donalds, and what do you think about Tennessee's education freedom scholarships?
Yeah, well, Erica Donalds is a friend of mine and a great school choice champion. We were actually together when Secretary McMahon had her confirmation hearing. We were in the room watching that. So I thought she did a really great job. Here in Tennessee, we're a little behind the eight ball when it comes to school choice, and I think that it's a great step in the right direction. But there's still a lot of work to be done. So I'm really excited to see what the legislature will do kind of as session wraps up. But there are some questions around, where the kids are coming from, how much is this actually going to cost, and how do we actually track the performance of these students in a way that we can actually measure this. And so great questions, great discussions are being brought out. And so as long as there's a great legislative body that can really figure out these tough questions, I think Tennessee will be in a good spot.
Do you think we can afford it in Tennessee?
Yeah, I believe so. When you look at the budget, when you look at where these dollars are coming from, I definitely think that we can afford it. The question is this working well enough to justify us doubling the program? And in Tennessee, we're very fiscally conservative, which I absolutely love. And so just wanting to make sure and have guardrails that, yeah, this program is working. It's helping the students that it's intended to help, and then off to the races. But right now, I just think there's so much uncertainty that we need to figure that out before we move forward.
Where's the uncertainty coming from?
Well, there's a lot of debate going on right now, and I take the position that it's from the perspective of ultimately what's best for the student, right? No person knows their child best than parents. Parents should be driving that conversation. But like you said, the question of cost, right? Who is utilizing these scholarships the most? What are the income brackets for those families? Were they already in private school? Were they in public school? Because when you think about school choice in its totality, right, it's helping families that don't have any other option or any other way out of their school, or it's just not a good fit for them, right, whatever that may mean. And so making sure that this particular policy is targeting those students, for first and foremost, I think is where people are just not really understanding the full picture.
Walter is going to hang out with us for the lightning round, which we'll do after the headlines with Jay Harper, which starts right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 11:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. The full weather forecast is on the way. The Pentagon says the next few days of the Iran war will be pivotal and insists that the U.S. objectives are being met. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth at a news conference today. He wouldn't give a timeline as to how long the war will last, though. But he was asked about the Strait of Hormuz and whether it was a priority for the U.S. military to reopen the strait to maritime traffic. Hegseth, he sided with what the president posted online, that other countries need to join in on securing the waterway.
He's proven that when he speaks, he means something. And he's pointing out, you might want to start learning how to fight for yourself. It's something some of us have been saying for quite some time. You can't just have flags. You have to have formations. You can't just have a few ships. You have enough to affect change.
Back here in the U.S., the U.S. Supreme Court has struck down Colorado's ban on conversion therapy. That prohibits efforts by mental health providers to change a child's sexual orientation or gender identity. ABC's Stephen Portnoy has more.
It was an 8-1 decision, finding that Colorado's ban on conversion therapy violates the First Amendment and has the state engaging in viewpoint discrimination. The holding of conservative Justice Neil Gorsuch was joined by liberals Elena Kagan and Sonia Sotomayor. But Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote a solo dissent, calling the majority opinion unprincipled and unworkable, noting how widely discredited conversion therapy is within the medical and scientific community.
Well, we don't need a study to tell us this, but a record-breaking spike in the cost of gasoline. According to Gas Buddy, the national average is now above $4 a gallon for the first time in more than 3 years.
Gas prices are up $1.07 since the start of the Iran war, marking the biggest monthly increase on record. Diesel is up $1.70 a gallon. That is also the biggest spike ever in 1 month. This all comes down to surging oil prices. We are in the middle of an historic shock to the world's oil supply because of the standstill at the Strait of Hormuz.
That's ABC's Elizabeth Schulze. That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand. For years, Americans have been promised lower prescription drug prices. And recently, there's been a big push to make that happen, including efforts to negotiate costs and expand access to lower-priced medications through programs like Trump RX. And for many Tennessee families and our seniors, that kind of relief matters. But in Tennessee, lawmakers are considering Senate Bill 2040. This is called the Fair RX Act, the Fair Prescription Act. Supporters say it's about fixing pricing. Critics are warning that this could come with serious unintended consequences, and the major concern is pharmacy closures. Some estimates suggest hundreds of locations could shut down, which would mean thousands of jobs being lost across the state. Then it also impacts patients. More than 1 million people could be left searching for new places to fill prescriptions, especially in rural areas where access is already limited. The bill could also restrict mail-order prescriptions, which is a key option for seniors and veterans and those who can't easily travel. Now, critics say this is big government at its worst, trying to fix one problem and creating a couple more in its place. So the question becomes, how do we lower costs without cutting off access or eliminating jobs? I don't want you to take my word for it. All I want you to do is do your own research. Learn more at protecttnrx.com. 39 minutes past the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC. Water filtration systems, water softeners, betterwater.com. You can listen to the show anywhere. There's a bunch of apps for it. Or the FM dial if you like kicking it old school. You can watch the show as well. Super Talk TV up and running, YouTube and Rumble. Hit the subscribe button. Help us grow the digital footprint of the radio station. Hard to believe it's already 11:40. We got my friend Walter Blanks Jr. in here, and he's going to be joining us for the lightning round. I have a lot of stories that Walt is going to give us some amazing input on. So without further ado, Mason, hit the music.
Lightning round with Chris Hand.
Do you have a little error there, bud? Something go wrong?
Post lightning round, oopsies.
Okay, all right. Don't worry. Tomorrow will be better. You'll have room to grow now. You know what I mean?
We'll see. Listen, sorry, this doesn't happen often. I'm not used to performance anxiety.
Doesn't happen often. We only do it every day. It's called the lightning round, where we cover all the stories that we didn't have time to get to, stories that wouldn't fill a whole segment. Sometimes just plain old absurdity and things that we want to talk to you about. So without further ado, let's do the lightning round. Walt Blanks Jr. is in here. Walter. Is that all right to call you Walt?
Yeah, go for it.
Perfect. My wife always gets mad at me because I like shorten people's names. It's like I have a neighbor, David, and I'll call him Dave, and she's like, he goes by David. I'm like, yeah, it was me and Dave. We're just chilling.
You're efficient. We
time is of the essence. All right, so this is a woman by the name of Pearl Warren, and she is a councilwoman in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Okay, and I'm gonna give you the councilwoman's comments, and then I want to get your reaction because I think it's a bit wild.
The fight that I fight every day to be a black woman here in America is not anything that you could ever fathom. You don't understand where I stand because you've never sat where I've sat. Welcome to my reality.
Powerful, stunning, and brave. If you're not watching on Super Talk TV, I will point out, Walter, you are black.
Yes.
And your mother would be a black woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're familiar with black women.
Yep.
Councilwoman Pearl Warren's annual salary is $110,000. To put it into context, because it's Minneapolis, the average salary in Somalia is $450. That's it.
Yeah.
So when she says
the fight that I fight every day to be a black woman here in America is not anything that you could ever fathom. You don't understand where I stand because you've never sat where I've sat. Welcome to my reality.
Can you tell me about that reality?
I don't know. I mean, I live a good life, right? I am incredibly blessed, right? I drive a Bronco. My wife and I just bought a house, right? Like, it's so ridiculous to me because it's just like, calm down, right? Like the black people do not have a lock on hardship, right? And it's so ridiculous. And 110,000 a year, you're doing just fine. Now maybe, right? Like in her mind, she has to have an oppressor. Right? Like that's one thing that we see a lot of, but this is ridiculous. Come on. You are doing just fine. There are people who are way worse off than you.
My wife and I, we were driving home from the state of Virginia. That's where her family lives, outside of Charlottesville. And we have 4 kids, right? So somebody's always got to take a bathroom break, inevitably 20 minutes after we get back on the road. So we pull off the highway and we found a Dollar General. It was the only store there. And we run in and we get the kids in the bathroom and we're coming back out. And across the street is a motel. And it is solely inhabited by white people. And they're not there for vacation. They're there because they live there. And we knew that because there's bikes out front. There's a basketball hoop out front. I mean, this is your place of residence.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at my wife and I said to her, geez, could you imagine how bad it would be without their white privilege? You know?
Yeah, that's how I am, and I just it's so ridiculous, and we live in a world now where there's no difference between you and I and what we can accomplish and what we can do. It's just like be a person of personal responsibility, go out, make it happen, and she's doing great for herself, right? Councilwoman, $110,000 a year, like. Take pride in that. You are doing way better than most people.
Honestly, like you should be grateful that you look at and even if you came from hardship. Like, that's a testimony. Look at
Right.
what you came from and
Right.
where you arrived, like, only in America.
Yep.
But in Minnesota, they don't do that kind of stuff.
Well, that's just how it goes, man.
Got another story for you here in the lightning round. In the lightning round? It's in the lightning round, Mason. It's in the lightning round. He's not doing it. He's training somebody. This comes out of Rhode Island. We've seen murals for Irina Zarutska put up everywhere. She was the woman that was stabbed to death on the Charlotte light rail train. One of my friends, J.K. Brister, who runs U.S. Pest, has a mural of Irina Zarutska on his property. It's gorgeous, beautiful. But these murals were going up everywhere, but they are going to be removed in Providence, Rhode Island, because the mayor condemned it because they're too divisive. Listen to this.
Well, Emily, Jean, it's still here, but not for long. Artist Ian Goudreau tells me he's sad it's come to this point, but after calls from Mayor Smiley and other local leaders to remove the mural, it felt like only a matter of time before this happened.
The artwork is going to be removed.
Artist Ian Goudreau breaking the news to NBC 10 Monday afternoon. The Irina Zarutska mural is coming down.
A lot of people voiced their frustrations, and voices were heard, and the work is coming down as a reaction to that.
So they're calling these murals divisive, and I would wonder why, how. This wasn't even an illegal alien. This was just your average American lunatic criminal who had been released dozens of times by activist judges. How is this divisive to anyone?
Yeah, well, the Bible says, "Woe to those who call good evil and evil good." I mean, what happened here was an absolute tragedy. And the fact that these murals are being taken down because they're divisive, it's absolutely ridiculous. And this is what happens when you stray further and further away from God, in my opinion.
Yep.
And it's so ridiculous. This woman was murdered, right? And
Cold blood.
and that's divisive. Like where's the compassion, right? Where's the empathy in that regard of what happened to this girl and also her family? And you just want to take it down because of, it hurts your feelings or it makes you uncomfortable. It's ridiculous.
It always blows my mind how far New England has fallen.
Yeah.
These are the guys, these are the states that looked at the king 250 years ago, some odd years ago, and said, yeah, nah, screw you. We're not doing that anymore. Rhode Island, actually, they were out 2 months before Boston and Massachusetts were out. Like, they were one of the leading charges in independence, yet here they are today, where you have the mayor condemning artwork because it's divisive. One of their representatives, David Morales, a Democrat out of Rhode Island, says the mural doesn't reflect their values.
Ultimately, we want to make sure that every community member that calls Providence home feels safe, and we can both agree that this mural behind us does not reflect Providence's values, nor does it reflect the creativity that we want to see in our city.
So, just memorializing a murdered woman is not your values?
And he even said in there, right, he wants people to feel safe in the community, right? She was not safe. This is absolutely just ridiculous.
I would wonder, did they also take down the murals of George Floyd because they were divisive?
They're probably still up, honestly.
I think the only one that got taken down was the one that God took down with the lightning.
Yeah.
Wasn't that in Ohio?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It sure was.
It's like just
Craziness.
the most random thing.
Yeah.
It's like lightning should not have struck that building.
Yep.
There was nothing that would have drawn lightning there.
Yeah.
Except for,
Yep.
we're out. All right. Yeah, see? Where were you the last time I needed lightning?
I like your sound effects better, honestly. I might take them and put them in place of lightning.
I'm losing faith. Ye of little faith.
Give me 3 days.
Okay. We'll give you some time. All right, got another story for you here in the lightning round.
Another one.
This one is also out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and it kind of ties into the Rhode Island story because we have another insane story about violence in Charlotte. I don't know. Am I the only one who was like, I didn't realize Charlotte, North Carolina was as dangerous as it is? So there's a woman who had 70 prior charges. 70, not 17, not 7, 70, who was just arrested again, 71, for stabbing a pregnant woman in a Harris Teeter parking lot. Listen to this.
It was random, inexplicable, and scary. She was getting her toddler out of the car when this woman she's never seen before confronted her and attacked her with a knife. To say this crime is a shock is an understatement. Wednesday, around 11 a.m., a woman was getting her toddler out of the car in the parking lot of the Cotswold Harris Teeter when she says another woman who pulled out of the parking spot behind her stopped her car in the middle of the lot, got out, cursed at her, and attacked her with a knife.
If you're watching on Super Talk TV, you're also seeing mugshot after mugshot after mugshot of this woman who was arrested with 70 prior charges. It's insane. This is the woman who was attacked. She's still alive by the grace of God, and her child was unharmed as well. The unborn baby also unharmed. I know probably people are thinking about that. Everybody's good. Everybody's good. This is the pregnant woman's reaction.
I was facing my toddler, getting him out of his seat, and thankfully turned around, and she was coming at me with a steak knife.
She asked we not identify her by name because she is still shaken up by the incident, but she is 38 years old and pregnant. She has never seen the woman who attacked her before and has no idea why this happened.
Insane. When did Charlotte become a scary city?
I have no idea, but this is a good reminder to always be able to protect yourself. Right. I tell my wife we're pregnant now. It's like, hey, if I'm not around, you need eyes up. Right. You need to be looking at what's going on. You can care if you want to. I always do. But it's just like, just be aware of your surroundings. But 70 prior charges. Like, how many charges do you have to get to before they just don't let you out again?
Yeah.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
70 priors. I don't even care what the priors were.
Right.
70.
Right. Yeah.
And now you're just stabbing random pregnant women in the parking lot.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me, man. Wow.
No, it doesn't make any sense. All right, I got another story for you here in the lightning round. There you go. All right, Mason's back. Mason's back. He's doing good with the lightning. This one is cool. This is I'm a fan of the Maha movement. RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz, they are making sure that real food is being put in hospitals. We need that. I think nutrition is the bedrock of your health. And RFK Jr., Dr. Oz agree.
The other announcement that we're making today is that Dr. Oz sent out a health and safety notice every hospital in this country at 11 o'clock this morning, asking them now to align their food purchases with the dietary guidelines in order to enjoy continued eligibility for Medicaid and Medicare payments. We're going to bring all the hospitals in the country in line with good food, and this is not something that we need to force hospitals to do. They want it. We have talked with them. They need the incentive, and this is going to help them with their procurement companies. The fact that it's now essentially a federal mandate. But it's something the hospitals wanted. It's something that they needed, and we want to do this very, very quickly. As Dr. Oz pointed out, the food in hospitals is so uniformly
food in hospitals is uniformly bad, is what he was saying. And this is another Maha win. People are saying Maha's been neutered. Maha's not doing what they promised to do. They're up against a lot of bureaucratic red tape, and they're still delivering wins. Your thoughts?
This is absolutely important, a massive one. Like you said, at the bedrock of everything is our health, right? What we're putting into our bodies, how we're exercising, all of those things. And so at the one place, right, a hospital where you go for care, the food there should be at least real somewhat, right? And so, great win, and hopefully Americans will begin to actually take their health way more seriously.
Yeah, we should. I mean, a lot of people would rather just keep eating junk and then down some Ozempic. I mean,
That's the way.
It's an option, though. Walter Blanks Jr. in studio. What are you working on? How can we keep up with you? What's new in your world?
Yeah, so I just started an organization called the Legacy Society, and it's geared towards thinking about what we're leaving behind for the next generation. So that includes education, that includes small businesses, that includes really encouraging communities to solve their own problems and not have to rely on the government. The government can come and aid, but we really want to be in a society where we're telling the government what we need.
Amen.
And we're driving those conversations. And so that's what we're doing there. Following the school choice stuff, not working as much on that, but really passionate about this organization that I've started. And we've been doing some C4 work around PBMs and property taxes, just making sure that Tennessee stays affordable for everyone and creating viable solutions for people to actually step up, have some ownership, and really own their own life instead of life happening to them.
I love it, man. Well, we'll definitely have you come back in and update on that. Where can we find more information on this?
Yeah, so all socials, primarily I'm on X, Walt Blanks Jr., and then the Legacy Society, also Legacy Society TN on X. And then the Legacy Society's website is legacysocietytn.org. So feel free to take a look and get involved.
Yeah, get connected with Walt Blanks Jr. He's one of the good ones. It's 11:54. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand here for my friend Aaron Parker over at Parker Safes and Vaults. I talk about Aaron all the time. He's a great guy. Christian, veteran, Air Force security experience, and he now runs a family business. Yeah, they're selling safes in Shelbyville. And if you're storing firearms, cash, gold, jewelry, or even passports at home, here's something most people don't realize. Not all safes are created equal. If a teenager can tip over your safe, congratulations, you bought a filing cabinet. I know you don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. Before you run out to a big box store to grab a safe because it's on sale, call the experts at Parker Safes and Vaults in Shelbyville. They carry trusted brands, Rhino Metals, Liberty, Graph Funder, American Security, ISM, Incas. These are the kinds of safe built to offer real protection from theft and fire, not built for clever marketing. Again, Aaron runs the business. Him and his sons handle everything, delivery and installation themselves discreetly and professionally. They're based in Shelbyville, but that is not another country. They serve all of the Nashville area, all of Tennessee, and even the surrounding states. You can find a detailed video review of every safe in stock on their YouTube page. Search for Parker Safes on YouTube or find the full list of the inventory online, parkersafes.com. That's parkersafes.com. Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand here from my friend Shane Ring over at Cover Nash. If you need some health insurance or you're just tired of paying an arm and a leg, or you think you got to wait till open enrollment to change the health insurance, that's wrong. That's just what the big guys want you to believe. With Cover Nash, you can get covered right now today and save a bunch of money. No waiting, no gimmicks. You missed open enrollment, no problem. You lost your job coverage, we got you covered. You're sick of overpriced junk insurance, you're in the right place. See, Cover Nash partners with over 75 top-rated insurance companies, including brand new nationwide PPO options with deductibles as low as $250, flat $50 doctor visits, even for specialists, ACA-compliant plans with free preventative care, physicals, colonoscopies. Not that you're excited, but it's included. Plans for individuals, families, self-employed folks, even small businesses. Stop overpaying, stop waiting, stop thinking you're stuck. Call Shane Ring today. If I'm a betting man, Shane's at his desk right now waiting for your phone call. 615-465-0023, 615-465-0023. Cover Nash is health insurance on your terms, not the government's. CoverNash.com. 11:59, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand, Jay Harper in the newsroom. Mason Fleming has been pretending to produce today. And Chad Benson's in studio. What's up, Chad?
What? What's up, brother?
Not much, man. What are you talking about today?
Probably talk a little bit about Iran. Probably talk a little bit about J.D. Vance messing up my hamburger yesterday.
J.D. Vance messed up your hamburger?
Yeah, my wife, they had to go and run an errand. She goes, we're going to get dinner. And they took her off the freeway, all of them, because J.D. Vance was in town for a little while.
Oh, okay. You want to hear something worse?
What?
J.D. Vance ruined your hamburger. Joe Biden ruined my wedding.
Oh, did he?
We got married in St. Croix.
Oh.
And he showed up on both sides of the week. So people were stuck on the tarmac waiting to get off.
That sucks,
And then people were stuck on the tarmac waiting to leave.
You know what everybody's thinking right now? Don't care because you got married in St. Croix.
It's fair.
Fair enough, brother.
Fair point.
So, we're talking about that, a bunch of other stuff.
I don't care. Did you get a hamburger eventually? It
was cold.
Don't care.
It was cold.
Microwave that thing.
It was cold. I was sad.
Sad Chad is the worst Chad. He's in next. It's 12 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 1 minute past high noon. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. A full forecast is just a few minutes away, so stand by. Today, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in favor of a Christian counselor who offers conversion therapy services in Colorado. The majority ruling, 8-1, claimed that Colorado's conversion therapy ban violated the free speech rights of the therapist. Conversion therapy is a controversial practice that tries to change the orientation and gender identity of LGBTQ children. Conversion therapy has been rejected by the scientific community and has also been linked to harmful outcomes from those that have had the practice undergone on them. We hear now from ABC's Devin Dwyer.
This is a big win not only for First Amendment advocates, but for really for Christian the Christian groups that had backed Ms. Childs in her Christian-based medical practice in Colorado, which had sought to open the door to a Christian-friendly treatment options for these types of kids.
We now turn to your midday money news. For that, here's Jim Ryan.
Investors hoping for an end soon to the Iran war have lifted stocks higher. The Dow headed into the midday up by 482 points. The S&P had gained 1.4%. The Nasdaq was ahead 1.8%. A job market that refuses to budge. The Labor Department's JOLTS report shows that 4.8 million Americans landed jobs last month, the lowest since April of 2020, while 5 million quit, were laid off, or were fired. The average price for a gallon of regular gasoline has now sped past $4, the highest since the summer of 2022, after Russia invaded Ukraine. The national average for gas is up more than $1 since the U.S. attacks on Iran. And checking bags will cost more on JetBlue. The airline, pointing to higher costs, is bumping up most bag fees by about $4 for travelers flying off-peak season. In peak season, the cost goes up about $9 per bag.
That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.